I'm sorry for my teammates.
길기를 저희 조금만 더 밀어놔요. 일단은 좀 이따가
Let's
다시
talk
한번
about
얘기해봐요.
that
정우
a
선수
little bit
먼저
later. We just want to hear from Blank about this victory as well. Blank, you were the relief pitcher for KT Roaster. How was the series?
2세트에 이긴 줄 알고.
In fact, I thought we won game 2.
현준이가
But
잘 박아줘서
Doran, you know, he just ended so well, so I got my chance
되게 뜻깊게
to get the
현준이한테
POG.
고맙다고.
Thank you, Doran, for giving me the chance.
도란 덕분에 POG 찬스가 생겼다. 자, 그럼 일단 오늘 경기 길었으니까 좀 흐름대로
Let's
가보도록
rewind
할게요.
back
1세트
to
때는
game number one.
제이스 도란 선수 뭐 3세트 때도
Doran,
잘했던 제이스 잡기도
you had a
했고
fantastic performance on Jace in game 1 and 3. I think KT kept having a very good comp, and you always outdrafted GRX today. What did you think after the end of the pick and ban in game 1? We had Ziggs, you know, Jace, the Poe comp.
좀 조합대로 잘
I think
된 것 같아서
everything went well according to our
좋았다
comp
하고
and the
싶었고,
theme.
그다음에 그냥 다음
And you know,
그냥 다음 판은 그냥 또
about the next
흐름대로
game,
했던 것 같아요.
we also just followed the flow.
조합대로 결국 이겼고.
네, 그러면 1세트
In game number one,
처음에서 크게 사고가 나면서
we had
상당히
a
킹들레드와
huge
펠리우스가 좀
accident
어마무시하게
down on
성장했어요.
the bottom lane. So
불리하다
Kindred and
생각하면 좀
Aphelios got so
조합이 좋으니까
bad.
후반
Were you guys
가면
worried
우리가
about
이길
the
수
entire
있다라는
situation,
생각을 좀
or were you guys confident about your late game power spike?
그냥 일단 말린
just-
건 어쩔 수 없으니까.
I mean, like,
그
that
자리에서
kind of thing can happen, you know. Some accidents can happen, but we
잘 됐던 것 같아요.
kind of all together were able to, you know, cheer up and come back.
그대로 하게 되고 바텀에서 좀 고생을 하다가 도란 선수
In game
이제
2,
그
we also,
캐넨이
you know,
내려오면서 한번 그래도 좀
had some
무마되는 그런
fantastic
흐름이 있었는데
performance from Kennen,
상대가 그렇게
even though your
바텀에서
bottom
한번
duo had
이득을
some
보고 나면 다음
hard
경기 때는
time
좀
down on the
그걸
bottom
견딘다는
lane
그냥
because you guys
어려워졌거든요.
actually let the Arcs
어떤 느낌으로
take the
그런
same
식으로
comp
보여줬잖아요.
that they
어떡해요?
dominated in game 1, Aphelios and Thresh.
두번 연속 다 바텀에서 득점을 했는데
And
그렇게
they
좀
kept
선수들
making,
좀
you know,
흔들리진 않나요?
points down on the bottom lane with that duo.
그래도 바텀이
But still,
1세트 끝나고도
after game 1, the bottom duo were still confident. So we just didn't really try to adjust the bottom lane draft. In game 2, you made some fantastic initiations, but you guys were so close to, you know, ending the game. But in the end, you actually allowed the Arcs to come back. What kind of feedback went back and forth after that? That was just like nonsense, you know. I just did some weird thing. Everyone said hit the turret, but I just wanted to kill Pyosik, you know.
표식자가 막 이렇게
We were like, go get Pyosik, and then
그 기드원 선수랑
Gideon
하프 선수한테
and Harp.
정말 미안.
I'm just sorry, guys. Sorry.
이제 승리를 가져갔으니까
그쵸.
이제 해프닝으로 볼 수 있을 것 같은데 뒤에서 보고 있던 블랭크
But still, you guys were
어떤
able
생각이었나요?
to secure the match
사실
victory.
이세트
So
끝나고,
win is a
이거
win.
칼퇴각이다.
And
우리 팀
Blank, what do you
잘했다.
think?
와,
I was like,
강하다
well,
했는데
we're going
이제
home early,
지고 나니까
but
이제
I just realized we lost.
준비해야겠다
So I was
하고
like, oh, I gotta get ready to
좀
sub in.
네, 다 잡았던
So I
것 같아요.
tried
준비해오고 있었고.
to pull myself together to, you know,
그 어쨌든
play on
1세트를
stage.
블랭크 선수는 쭉 보면서
Blank, you were the one watching game 1 and 2 and subbed in game 3. What was the focal point that you had in your mind? Were you the leading player in game 3?
바텀 쪽으로 많이
Pyosik
가고 이제
played
강가시아를
around the
잘 잡아서
bottom lane a lot,
그
and he
시야적인
was trying to
부분도 많이
secure
받고 좀
vision
실수하는
around
부분도
there as
많이
well. So I
캐치했던
tried
것
to, you
같아요.
know,
그래서 3세트 때
catch
좀 그런
his
게
play
좀
style
드러난 것
about,
같아요.
you know, vision control and also just play style in general. So I tried to capitalize on that in game 3.
벌리면서 스피디하게 게임을 끝냈는데
Game 3 was
확실히
pretty
좀
quick,
정글과
and you guys were able to get
서폿이
ahead a
뛰면서
lot
분위기
early
전환이
on.
좀 있었나요?
Was that the substitution that helped you guys a lot in terms of your mood?
전 경기가 워낙 치열했던 것도
And game 2 was
그래서
so
이제
intense.
리프레시한 이제
So we just wanted to
선수
refresh the
팀이
atmosphere, you know,
들어가서
some new
다시 이제
players
분위기 이제
on the
더
roster.
띄워주고
So in
그런
order to, you know,
부분을 저희가 또
lighten up the
마청이니까
mood. And also I'm the
그런 부분을 좀
me
맡았던
and
것 같습니다.
Zeus are the oldest players, so we just wanted to, you know, take the charge and cheer my teammates up.
든든하면서도.
그리고 또 다이애나 궁으로 오늘
And yeah, you also made some wombo combo and epic moment with the Diana Foreman ultimate. What do you think of Diana's initiation? Any tips?
피나는 노력이라고
It's just
생각하고요.
the result of my
정말 열심히
endless effort.
했기 때문에
You know, I just
그런 결과가
practiced
나오지 않았나 생각합니다.
so hard.
그 순간의 집중력과 평소의 성실함이 비결인 것 같습니다. 자, 좋습니다. 그러면은 이제 4%의
Awesome.
가능성이기는
So, KT
하지만
Roaster, you guys
계속해서
still have
플레이오프를
a
노려봐야
4%
하거든요.
of
남은 경기
probability
각오 들어볼게요.
to
도란 선수.
get your playoff spot.
같은 경우는 정말 2세트 같은
I mean,
경우 정말
today's series,
팬들한테도 죄송하고
I'm just so sorry for my
또 팀원들한테도
fans
또 한번
about
미안하고,
losing
네.
game 2. Also sorry for my teammates
아 이거 인터뷰
about that whole accident.
하는 게 맞나 싶은데
I don't really think I deserve to do this interview right here, but
그리고 다음
I will make
경기는
sure
또
to
이기면
make it not happen again. I hope we can add another
그러면
victory on the board
이기면
in
되는
the
겁니다.
upcoming matches.
블랭크 선수도 각오 들어보겠습니다.
Blank, what about you?
항상 감독님이 하신 말씀이 있거든요. 이제
Here I always tells
포기하지
us
말자.
don't give up. Let's not give up. It's not
끝까지
over.
가자
It's
하셔가지고
never over until it's so
그
over.
말대로
Let's push till the
저희
end.
선수단과
And
이제
thanks
코치
to that,
감독님들
thanks to
다
that
열심히 하고
comment,
있고
our players, our
지원해주신
coaching staff are
프런트
working so hard, and
분들도
also people working at the front
열심히
desk are
해주셔서
working so hard
좀
for us.
끝까지
So
꼭
I hope we can, you know,
하겠습니다. 파이팅.
네.
keep going until it's really, really over. Any
사실
message to the
인터뷰가
fans?
처음이라서
This is my
떨리는데 항상
first interview. I'm a little
어,
bit nervous, in fact.
항상 저희 팬분들이 있기
But
때문에
you know, thanks
저희가 있는
to
거라고
all the
생각하고
fans and love and support,
네,
we
정말
are existing right here.
해주시면
And
감사하겠습니다.
I will look forward to your
최선을 다하는
continuous
모습
support.
보여주시면 끝까지 응원해 주실 것 같습니다. 오늘
And
승리
that's it
축하드립니다.
from Doran Blank from KT Roaster, and I'm gonna pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
Thank you, Ji-san, once again for the wonderful translation of the interview. As good to hear from Doran, the excessive apologies over that game too. Was a bit of a whoopsie. Maybe that's the turnaround that they needed to turn it on for the playoffs, but we'll have to wait and see. As we will take a look at the standings after that game. Of course, KT, they need to win 2 matches. They need Hanwha Life to defeat Afrika, and Afrika to lose all of their other matches in order to potentially make it. But it's not going to be easy, chronically.
And those apologies for Doran's, I don't think he needed to make for his own play. I don't even think you need to make apologies for your play as KT as a whole, but it's definitely reduce the risk as much as you possibly can, because we've seen teams just pop off for a day in playoffs, right? And all of a sudden, Nongshim last split did it, almost got there when they brought Hanwha to 5 games. So that's exactly the type of things that you'd be afraid of. And now, time to climb higher now that the playoff spots have been confirmed here for both of these teams.
Gumayusi, Ruler dematerialization analysis complete versus Ruler. I will cut him into 16 pieces. Pretty brutal. Now we'll see how that bottom lane fight does go. Kana versus Bertle. A little bit of a spoiler as to who is coming into the top lane for Gen.G. Yes, it will be Bertle once again. That is going to be an interesting matchup.
That said, the ferocious Bertle, as he prefers to be referred to.
Yes.
Of course, we're not going to do the whole time, because that would be a lot. But is a great player thus far. And Kana has also been in the upswing. I think he's had his fair share of criticism, but looking a lot better. And the same can be said for these stats of both the teams. And it's interesting because T1 to me doesn't really feel like the team that you think of when you think about best early game in the league. But then you look at their gold standings and they're ludicrous. It's what happens afterwards that is a problem for them. Whereas with Gen.G, they still sometimes opt into these very aggressive strategies. The Volibear Renekton's 1-2 on red side come to mind. But they've been swapping it up as well. And I think that Bertle in that regard is a nice breath of fresh air. And the mid game of Gen.G is still some of the best that we have in the entire LCK.
Yeah, definitely one to be feared. This is going to be the lineup for T1. It's one that you've come to expect now when you do watch T1. This is the kind of the 5 players they've been going with for a bit now. And yeah, it's been nice. I feel like they have a pretty aggressive tone overall, especially now that Owner is in the jungle. And here is, of course, Gen.G. Same lineup, except Bertle is in the top lane instead of Rascal. And he's been performing pretty well, so I think he does deserve, of course, some more playtime. And he will get it in a very important match here, because every loss is actually huge right now. We're in week 9. It's either, 2, 3, or 4 matches that you have left over. You can't really afford to lose if you want to hit top 2 in the LCK.
And with so little matches on the line, as you point out, every single win that you can scrape together matters in case there ever does come a head-to-head. As key player today, Faker versus BDD, and I think that Faker has been somewhat on the upswing. I think his spring was fairly lackluster, didn't really get together with the rest of his team, a lot of disjointed looks, and that has been much better. His impact on the map has been great as well when he gets picks like the Rise. And BDD, I've always held him in high regard, and he is, although always in kind of a weird spot where you'd never name him in like the top 3, but then sometimes you feel like you should, but then once playoff comes around, is it really going to happen again? But then we think back to spring and BDD gapped Faker 3 matches in a row. So we know it's in him. It's just a question of which BDD shows up here today. And this is a man that I'm incredibly excited about. And it is kind of the counterpart of a player that we haven't seen on T1 yet, which was of course Zeus. But with the current form of Kana, I actually think that he's been looking so much better in the last couple of weeks. I think his early spring was somewhat of a liability, required an incredible amount of attention. So with Bertle now coming in, giving new life and an increased amount of versatility to Gen.G in drafts, combined with a T1 that has looked so much more aggressive, at times a little bit too much under Owner, his proactive jungle play. I think this should be fireworks between these two teams, Valdez.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. I'm really looking forward to this series, and T1 will select blue side. Let's see what that does bring in. Our first series was wild and wonderful. I was going to talk about, the side selection there, but I think it's a little bit different for this series and what it could mean and the picks that we might see here. Maybe we see even some counterpick left available for Bertle in game number 1. We'll see how that goes, as it looks like game will be started up right now. We will jump into pick ban already.
And Gen.G themselves have been very vocal about this as well. In the previous T1 series, they got clapped by Ziggs. Were not able to pick up the pick, left it open in the pick and ban very often, so I 100% expect this pick to just be banned away, not be given over to Gumayusi. And that also serves us well, because as we already pointed out in the points of the match, both of these players have a lot of fresh, friendly trash talk going on.
Yeah.
You know, I've downloaded Ruler. I'm going to blow him up, and then getting the Ziggs and actually doing really well in that matchup. But then Ruler being like, just wait until we get an actual matchup, and I'm not Varus.
Look at this.
That's what. Have you ever seen a more clear precursor to I am going to pick Jace?
Yeah.
Do Gen.G ban it though?
It's really obvious, and it's Kana's best pick. I like the ban because it puts on a lot of pressure, and it's one of those picks that if you take away their counter picks, I mean, nobody really plays Malphite right now, so.
Birdle, you're the chosen one, please.
The chosen Malphite, the rock on which we can all lean.
That's a good ban. If you don't know why, go back to the game a couple of weeks ago where Carrier picked up the POG with Fresh. Just go into that. Just watch that game. Yeah, a lot of respect here shown in bans, which I really like. I feel like these are very personalized bans. Champions like Viego being left open. Lee as well. Okay.
Oh, that was quick.
I expect this to go to Birdle.
Yeah.
He is an incredible Irelia player, but there is still a flex potential if you choose to really try and throw a curveball towards T1. Surely a Jace lock-up now, or lock-in now feels not as great, but they're going to do it anyway. Kana Jace versus Birdo Aurelia is a matchup that I want to see, Vel. That is the fireworks that I was hoping for.
Yeah.
And the TF as well. And I talked earlier about the impact that Faker had been having on the map. And a great example of this was also the Twisted Fate, which can impact the other lanes so incredibly nicely. So T1, that early game power that we talked about is here in spades. Incredible amount of siege ability to impact the rest of the map. And then here, Klid's Rumble coming through.
Rumble picked up. No Diana here. Going to go for an AP jungler alongside of the Aurelia that they already have. Varus going to be taken off the board. Not a lot of focus on the bottom side outside of the Leona, of course. So we're really going to cut down on the amount of picks that can be taken here.
Come on, flex that Aurelia to mid and pick the Malphite. You know you want to. I'm not gonna give up, Valdez. There is a way. No, I'm joking. Don't actually expect to see that divided team. And interesting is we talked about like the counter picks that came through, right? More individual, specific picks for these two teams, and that means that champions like the Lucian and the Rise have just made it through pick and ban. Champions that have been in incredibly high prio, and I would not be surprised to see some of these more general picks that are very highly regarded in the current meta be banned away. To try and mitigate any other forms of power that might be available for the teams as Aphelios. That's an interesting one, especially with the Fresh already banned out. Loses a lot of power there.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they're actually going to pick here for Ruler as well. When you consider what is left available, Kai'Sa was definitely one that Ruler has been playing nowadays, but I think they could have expected it to potentially be banned here.
5 bot lane bans, unless you really want to, consider Lucian one, but only Docdom has played that. Ooh, I don't know how I feel about that. That is great into the great into the Lee Sin rather. Okay into the Twist of Fate, but into a Jace picking a Xayah doesn't feel very good, especially when the Ezreal answer is there. And that's not a very fun matchup, but it does tie into this team fighting style that we see as that's a
okay.
Ooh,
Carrier yeah.
Doing it again, playing into a tank. And last time this worked very, very well. Do you think that post 6 playing Trundle into a Xayah is not the best experience? But that early damage he was able to do with the Halo Blades, and that is a staple, and it fits really well into Gen.G's composition.
Yeah, take a look at this. Final pick, BDD. They were saving that. BDD will go for the Syndra, of course, into Twisted Fate. So we'll be looking to put on a bit of pressure there. Hefty amount of magic damage on the side of Gen.G with the Rumble and the Syndra very upfront in your face. So can definitely expect some Merc Treads, especially with the Leona alongside of it. It'll be interesting to see how Kana does itemize.
I can't wait because these are such volatile lanes, especially on top side.
Yeah.
Obviously, a Jace versus an Irelia is a powder keg. Whichever champion gets a lead early gets an immense amount of pressure in that lane. If there is comeback potential, it's more on the side of the Irelia. Once you have your ultimate available, maybe if you can get a rotation in. But then, think on the flip side. Yeah, it's nice that you might get pressure in that lane, Bertel, but can you also take into account Faker? Can you take into account Owner, who has been paying a lot of attention to this top side? Because Kana, especially on Jace, gets so much love and attention from the rest of his team, and enabled by that TF, that's going to be a rough one. At the same time, though, it's BDD on his trademark Syndra, but now a buffed variant. Right?
Yeah.
And the CC is incredible, the skirmishing is insane, and the teamfight power with a Solar Flare, possible lockdown from the Xayah, as well as that Rumble ultimate. This should be fireworks. I've said that before with LCK draft,
Yeah.
so let's see what we're actually going to end up with.
I think we're in for a really fun game number 1. Just right from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
I think Faker's TF has been pretty stellar this year. I think his ability to look for picks and where he does go for it. Like, his skill participation stat in round 2, you might look at that and be like, oh, well, I don't know about that. Like, maybe he's not really playing around his teammates, but as Chronicler has been saying, he has been very crucial and actually improving in that facet specifically. So
I'd honestly blame that one just on carry. for like
too many kills in the bottom lane
just
without
doing
Faker.
too much. Yeah, I'm like, and we joke, right? But I think in this scenario, it's obviously more akin to what the entirety of T1 is doing. But it is important to like think about, like, if your bot lane is gapping every single lane, they're getting all the kills, like your stats can look worse, right? And I don't think it's the case in this scenario, even though Carry and Guma are obviously an incredible bot lane. Carry in particular having a great split as per usual. Important to think about these stats in the context of the teams. As we see defensive rune choices here for Faker, as the bone plating as well as the unflinching, which into the amount of CC on Gen.G's side is always going to be great. And BDD must be very happy that Syndra is now a legitimate champion again. Because she hasn't been for a while, and we still saw her picked up a little bit. But this is looking like good old Syndra.
Yeah, Syndra's back, and I think it'll start with the players that always used to play her all the time, and then more players will begin to pick her up as they realize the power. And you can see Faker's Twisted Fate, as I was mentioning, it's pretty insane. 14-4. And he just does so much. Not only with early ultimates that he's able to pick off, but also later on in the game. Once you get the rapid fire cannon and you're able to get that extra range, some of the picks that he has been able to pick up have been very nice.
And these are mostly older Irelia, pre-mini rework Irelia. And you'd expect the Jace to have a lot of pressure in this matchup for the first 3 levels. Once the stun becomes available, it obviously becomes a completely different equation. And this Xayah pick is the one thing that I'm not 100% sure about, because while I really appreciate the team fighting power that the pick has, it runs sometimes into similar problems that an Aphelios does, which is if opponents are not actually engaging on you, it can be hard to play the game. And into a Ezreal and a Jace, and this pokey style that T1 really like to go towards, it might be a little bit harder. Klid moving towards bot side, so neither jungler are going to meet each other here early, which makes Bertel's life a little bit more uncomfortable. But should be able to pick up most of the wave here and just try and stay alive once he hits. As we were playing level 3, you get a little bit of pressure, and then post 6, it's a lot better as Faker is getting bullied in his mid lane.
Yeah, it's definitely really annoying early on against the Syndra. He is going to have to go for a back at an unfortunate time, although Owner was around. Again, this isn't a cannon wave, so Faker actually looks like he will stick around. This is something he does very often. Just goes for kind of like fake backs where he goes way off of the turret, shows that he's backed off, but actually he sticks around, and then the enemy mid laner is backing, so they decide not to cancel it, etc., etc. And then he's able to get a better back off of that. Doesn't miss too much of the wave. And immediately he's going to buy some more survivability. Probably a good idea.
I like
this matchup.
Yep. And Faker uses teleport, whereas BDD didn't. So BDD able to conserve his summoner there, which might lead to some good situations for them later on the map. Faker there using his minion dematerializer just to get a little bit more pressure on that wave so he can roam and place some vision. Now this isn't something that's going to pay off right now, but it might later on when we see him make a play towards bot side once level 6 is hit and Destiny Gate is available. First back, Sork Boots for Clid, incredible item from Rumble, always has been, as Birdle now going to get his first back through if can't actually let him, and with that wave, kind of has to. And this is where it should get juicy around the map. The first back's now starting to come through, and as levels are gained, I am hoping for some early scuffles, maybe around a Drake. Maybe a gank on that top side once Birdle has his ultimate available. Faker is almost unlocked in this mid lane. And that's when we should be starting to see some movement around the map, Valdez.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see both junglers have been kind of passive so far, just farming out both of their own jungles. Trying to get as much of that XP as possible, trying to hit level 6. Not quite going to be reached for either jungler so far, as the mid laners are far enough ahead. Owner is looking at the top lane, potentially. You gotta be careful, especially as Aurelia hits level 6. If you can't burst her down, sometimes she can do ridiculous things on the turnaround, but they're just not gonna commit to that just yet.
Don't really have to. Ruler just being left alone while Life is going into the river for a little bit. BDD backed again. Still has the teleport, so even in case of a play on top side, there is a response possible.
Oh, backing on the ward, and Birdle is sticking around. You could see he was definitely considering it. Owner was nearby, and he decides at the end of the day, we're just not going to go for that play.
And you know he wanted to. You know Birdle wanted to, because if you hit the ultimate there and there was no one, that is at least a forced flash, possibly more. In this scenario, though, doesn't actually know where Owner is. He hasn't been spotted in quite a while, and that means that you need to respect appropriately, because going in there and then getting taken down is what happened to Chovy. And then your Aurelio's behind, and that's never a great position to be in. Faker didn't even have to use his ultimate, walking in the general vicinity of this top side, but look at Clid walking by in the lane.
Yeah, you're going to spot this. Of course, Faker did walk over a ward, so very obvious the play up towards the top side. But now we got 3 members of Gen.G up on the top side, so Kana's the one that has to be careful. Bottom side has been kind of exactly what you would expect.
Yep.
Life isn't engaging onto the Trundle. Gumius, he's farming with his Q. Nobody's really doing anything, so they're just farming it out for now.
And whereas last time carry, I went for the very aggressive Halo Blades. I think that he made the right call by going for Guardian, recognizing that there shouldn't really be any action on the bot side. When played well, as Owner steals the red buff. Nice little play there. Yeah.
I don't know if Clid saw him go over the wall, actually. He was pulling the Raptors back, and because of that, he was able to just steal it right from under the nose of Clid. So a nice little win going the way of Owner.
It's something.
I feel like it's the first thing we've seen in this game. So.
No, this is just good calculated LCK gameplay, Valdez.
We're just cooking up something nice, you know?
Yeah, you need to take time, you know? Can't just rush a nice dish. You need to give it time to stew.
It's like a good chili, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Gotta let it stew up. Life is up on the top side here. We're maybe looking for a play. If they could get a pick into the Rift Herald, that's obviously a big one. Seems like both teams are aware of this, as no supports are in the bottom lane.
Meanwhile, in bot lane.
Yeah.
Nothing happening there, but a straight-up fight between these teams might be fun.
A little bit of damage done to Carrier, but he is trundled with a Ruby Crystal, so not going to be too easy to take him down, even though he isn't level 6. No Solar Flare for Life either. It's a nice little play moving in as a team, going to clear out the vision. This early game has been so tense and so even between these two teams.
And we might see the payoff here as BDD is going to be able to teleport in with a fresh back, picks up his Sorkpan boots, and he's been holding onto the CP for the entire time, ever since He got that early back, Faker at the teleport, and now it will get used here, and I think this should be enough. Life also at level 6, so that's a Solar Flare, as well as the ultimate from Clit available. I don't think you really can walk in here as T1 with a Scatter the Weak available.
Yeah.
Looking like they're going to do it though. Birdle does need to rotate over if they want to make sure that nothing goes awry.
Carry is not level 6. You mentioned the Solar Flare is available, but we're not going to have Subjugate to potentially help burst someone down. You think about Lee Sin, TF, and Jace, that's something they would love to do. And they say, well, we're not really okay to take this one. They see the level 6 on Life. All 4 members of Gen.G are here. And Faker's just running bot. Even though Xayah has, yeah, he's going to stop that idea. Never really going to work unless Xayah was really far down the lane. But Ruler does respond in kind, and a nice little map maneuver from Gen.G using that teleport that was saved to pick up the Rift Herald.
Nicely done. Easy pick up there. And that will be the Herald for Gen.G. Now, I wonder where they're going to use it. With this wave state, it's going to push into Birdle. If he can then set up a play with Clit, do see some pings going down. There's a possibility of them going for an aggressive play, maybe giving over some plates to that Aurelia on top side as well. But with Clit backing, looks like they want to use the pressure elsewhere, maybe throw it down bot side. And then look for a Drake as well. Because we've been hyping up this top side as like this cool volatile matchup. Nothing has happened at all. It's like
Birdle almost
nothing.
clicked his R one time.
Yeah, but then he didn't, as he shouldn't have. But here we are.
Players are just too smart.
He doesn't even go for the cannon. He doesn't even greed for the cannon, Valdez.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh,
Wow, he's really respecting a lot. And the problem with this is that, yes, you know, they don't have vision on Faker. Owner could be anywhere. Yes, you are in danger. And here it is. The huge stunt gets all 3 of them into the equalizer. What a play! As now Clit is over the wall. That should be 2. He does pick it up. Thankfully for T1, Owner was at least able to pick up the scraps of the Aurelia as they walked straight into that one, and immediately Birdle and Clit just clapped them.
cool, and there was a really good adjustment from Clit. He read that play. It was relatively, he was already pathing towards mid bot side. His entire jungle was up, but saw the wave that was being stacked there. And Birdle played it as respectfully as he needed to, and that flawless duet was just, whew! Want to see a replay of that one, because that was incredibly clean. Allowed Clit to set up for such a good ultimate, and yes, Birdle did die, but it's still a favorable trade, especially if Gen.G is able to find a nice play with this Rift Herald, pick themselves up some gold, and clinch an early game gold lead. And getting your Rumble ahead makes your team fighting so incredibly oppressive. And you know, Valdez, there is a saying when it comes to these Twisted Fate ults, it's the same as a Nocturne. You need to make them count.
Look at this. I mean, it is flawless.
Yeah.
It's perfectly timed. It's perfectly timed. It catches all three of them right as they teleport.
That's just beautiful. And then
Says, I think we can go in here. He was right.
I think he can even, if he wants to, they can attempt to leverage more pressure on Owner there, but they don't want to take the risk, which I think is fair. Even with BDD coming in and Dark Harvest proc still being available due to the resets, like, you don't need to take that risk. But yeah, that flawless duet from Birdle was just poor. However, he might get visited again. Which, honestly...
Oh, no flawless duet.
He's
open.
It's done. Well, it actually might be, because we joke, but if they go in with 3 men here again, it needs to be a counterplay. And I don't think Gen.G have read this one yet. Carrier, I think, standing just outside the vision. But at this point, they should suspect something is up. Can just go for the mid lane turret there, and if they get first turret blood, might still be a good trade.
Birdle is maybe going to be the sacrificial lamb here. Nice stun onto Owner, but will not deny the Q. As this time around, no flash and no hope of survival. But he already did his job, as the pressure in the mid lane is pretty massive. They're really going to push for this mid-tier 1. Bottom lane as well. Guma was left all alone. And so an extra couple of plates are given over to Ruler at the same time. Gen.G also getting the Cloud Drake is pretty nice, although T1 will also get this turret up in the top side.
And it's still both teams trading incredibly evenly, because yes, the first turret blood goes to Gen.G, which initially puts them on even footing, but then T1 picks up the plates, all the plates, 10 seconds before the turret actually falls on top side. and picks up the kill on Birdo as well. And this is in line with what we've seen from T1. They pay so much attention to Kana when he's on this chase. He gets an incredible amount of attention. And even though that first play works out really nicely, this second one doesn't really get answered as well. Yeah, they get the mid lane turret, which in terms of map control is going to feel great. But Faker still stalls very nicely there. Yeah, just there's no amount of outplay that you can find in this situation. Fortunately, it's another huge wave going into the turret, leading to this. It's only one wave, which is honestly okay if you consider the amount of pressure that Birdo has been under, but it does lead to a big lead here for T1, and it's just how they like to play. Gen.G, though, wanting to answer onto Faker.
Uh-oh, now he knows he's in danger. The Zenith Blade is going to miss, and there's no stun, and he says, see you later. I'm getting out of here. And he will easily handle that pressure, as Gen.G will be able to take down the turret because of that rotation.
As BDD is just trying to keep his turret alive here. Sidesteps every skill shot. Very nicely done, meaning that now only 5k gold lead. Birdo, though.
Oh, wow. Even committing the subjugate here. Not sure. Maybe a zoning tool, just pushing him away off of that turret. But either way, Birdo will be just fine.
And Ruler just soaking up resources as he does. And one of the nice things for Gen.G is that with his bot side being completely devoid of any action, Ruler has been able to avoid the place where Xayah traditionally doesn't get that much done. Right, like a laning phase, it's okay, but it's very passive. It's relatively subpar. You don't get that much done. Also done for extremely defensive itemization with the play that still caps here. But one of the powers of Gen.G has always been their team fighting, and Xayah is a team fighting champion par excellence. Incredible amount of self-peel, as well as the damage that she can do once she gets an item or two, and is slowly getting close to that. T1, though, pick up the Herald. It's incredibly even here, right? Because it's not that much action, but every action that does happen gets immediately answered on the other side of the map. But I want to see a 5v5. I don't even think it's necessarily the right call, but I do want it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if T1 will really ever elect to go into that, right?
No, they don't.
You're looking at the Fed Rumble. You're looking at you know, so many tools on the side of Gen.G. When you're rocking Jace Ezreal, you wanna scale up a bit with that Ezreal. You have a really nice amount of poke, some great pick with the TF and potentially the pillar, but
it's the entire composition of T1 doesn't actually want to commit, right? Like you want a side lane, and you can either side lane or you can set up near an objective and then use your pillar. The kite back that Ezreal provides you, defensive play from the Lee Sin, obviously Kana's poke, to kind of scope out Gen.G, get them low, don't allow them to use the hard engage that they have available, and then just play from there. Or if they're, you know, putting people in side lanes, Owner has been consistently looking for plays on Birdo. Faker, obviously, on the Twisted Fate can, as you pointed out, make plays around the entirety of the map. But is that enough pressure from T1? Or is Gen.G just going to say, well, that's nice, but now we're just going to go into this Infernal Drake, let's say, as Kana demolishes Birdo. Not a very fun trade for him, because he can't go in, right? Knows what's about to wait for him, and again, it's a cross-map trade, but giving up this inner, at the very least, is painful, and I think we might get a second charge here.
They're trying to... No, they're not going to get it. And so that charge will be used here. And now, well, we have the Destiny used, and they're actually jumping onto life here. That is a big pillar, and now the stopwatch has to be used. The charge comes in. Birdo's trying to go 1v3. Nearly able to pick up Keria, but not quite, as the shock blast from Kana is gigantic to pick up the kill onto Leona. As you can see, Klid, he says, all right, kids, it's time to stop fighting. But already T1 have bitten off a massive chunk of the arm of Gen.G.
Ruler doesn't even get his rep buff, Veldis. That's how unfair it feels to him, because he can't really join this fight, right? He's not in a position to be there, and it is just exactly the type of play that you want to see from T1. They never want to fight on even footing. They're always looking for an angle, always looking to fight when they have more people. This exhaust on Birdo was absolutely huge, because I think otherwise Keria might actually die, and that can lead to all sorts of awkward situations. But instead, they blow two people up and are out there before Gen.G can actually collapse. And Gen.G need to be more ready to read these type of plays, because Whereas initially they were able to reliably answer. Now it feels like T1 is actually pulling them around the map.
All right,
They
this
go
is
in.
one way, but again, Kana, he still has flash. He doesn't even necessarily take that much damage. As okay, True Shot Barrage is gonna fly by, potentially trading back. Gen.G, you know, if they can ever group up, try to look for picks, try to force 5v5 plays on a dragon or something like that. They would love to put on more pressure with the Ocean Soul points. That will be the next Drake in about 3 minutes. So just trying to build up to that really is Gen.G at this point, while trying not to bleed too much in the side lanes.
Yeah, glad you pointed out, because that is the one. Saving Grace is a bit dramatic, because it's not like Gen. Yes, they're 2k gold behind, but they have an amazing teamfight comp. If they find a single engage or a flawless duet, a scatter, they're back in the game, and that they can easily take up objective after objective. But right now, the pressure of that possible soul point in 2.5 minutes is what I imagine Gen.G is worrying about. Like, can we keep enough control of the map? Can we not bleed more turrets? Which is why Ruler is so steadfastly defending this inner, or this outer turret in mid lane rather, as a lot of these have been thrown from Guma, and they do hurt with him on 2 items.
Yeah.
Because if they give up too much, then contesting the Drakes doesn't become a possibility anymore, and that's one of your most reliable forms of counter pressure as Gen.G, as T1 is going to make these plays across the entirety of the map. As this is a collapse that they want to look for.
Yeah, the pillar is so effective, though. I mean, this is one thing that Trundle really, he finally found his moment. He's like, okay, so good at disengage, can potentially look for picks with that one simple ability, and works well with all the poke that they have. You even have the dragon kick for the disengage as well. If you're looking for that, you can put up pillars, you can siege really well with that. I just really love the comp that they've built, and the macro so far from T1 has been pretty stellar. They've even got Faker in the side lane just freely taking down turrets. Ruler's not able to do much except clear the wave, of course. So things are really looking up here for T1 as long as they can keep this amount of pressure up. I wouldn't say the style of play that they're playing is easy or simple to pull off, but so far they've been making it look easy.
And it is exactly the type of play that I think we've wanted to see from T1 for quite a while, because they've been drafting these comps for what feels like ever since spring. But the execution very often was not quite there, and it is still a tough balancing act, but right now they're making it work early on. In a minute, the Drake will spawn, and that's a big scatter!
There it is! BDD comes up huge with the scatter, and there it is, the follow-up over the wall as T1 runs straight into it, and BDD knocks down the entire team like bowling pins. So now what are you going to do as Gen.G? They're looking to maneuver over to the Baron.
Oh! I don't know if they can do this, Valdez. But if they can, it's so big. Kana is there, though, has his 2-item spike. Incredibly fat, can go for the shock blasts.
Yeah, I think they have enough damage on this one. And yes, Faker and Kana will threaten it. Kana maybe even looking for the steal. He snuck around the backside, and well, okay, that's not the steal. That's going to be the simple smite, of course, from Clid, and that is a huge objective already, 22 minutes into the game.
And Faker just doing his best to try and stall out these backs, but with empowered recalls, not really going to happen. Yes, they give up a single Drake, as I don't know if they can contest even with the teleport available on BDD, but you don't really care. As Gen.G, that was a incredibly important fight, and we haven't finished our sentence yet. It's a bad caster curse if I've ever seen one, because here we're talking about how it's a balancing act and how they're making it work, and then BDD finds just the sickest scatter, and then the follow-up is there, right? Brutal immediately jumps in, doesn't care about the teleport. Clid has his equalizer ready, flame spits, barbecues trolls, carry out a troll down as well. And now all of a sudden, it is Gen.G who swung back to gold lead and should be able to pick up a ton of outer turrets here. And that is going to make T1's life a lot harder.
Yeah, it's definitely a gigantic swing, and you can see the power of Gen.G's comp. If you can just force an engage and pick someone off like that, you know, maybe even regardless of the comps, if Syndra's able to get that big of a scatter, like, and the game is easy enough, you're probably going to win the fight. Like, let's be real. BDD with just really a highlight play, and that gets them into a really great spot. We'll see what they can get with this Baron power play. as with the Infernal on top of it, you can feel the scaling weighing down on this game.
And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it BDD on a Syndra that demolished in the spring finals as well?
Yeah.
It was like, it was,
yeah.
it was exactly the same situation, right?
Having
But
flashbacks.
ooh, but for T1,
Look at this.
if they can get on top of Ruler, if they can blow someone up or catch someone like BDD who is off on his own pushing there in a rotation, then they're still completely fine. The wave clear is also great with the amount of range they have available. And we can see that, yes, this was a nice pickup of the Baron, but what have Gen.G actually gotten? And the answer is not a whole lot. Some damage left and right, but I think Gen.G are very scared of throwing this game away. And that means that while the Baron could have been a game-breaking moment for T1, it's clearly not.
Yeah, seems fine for now. They're just able to defend pretty easily. They get the one Ocean Drake, of course. I feel like the Baron is definitely going to catch everybody up on the side of Gen.G that may have fallen behind on XP. A nice amount of pick going out onto Light here as the follow-up and the true shot barrage, and everything's being thrown at him. And the kitchen sink. Here comes Owner. Looking for it, maybe. Not going to go for it, but look at the damage coming out of Kana. This is why you ban Wukong on blue side, you pick it for him, and then you play around him because he can do stuff like this, and there doesn't seem to be much counterplay when you're just running away.
And that's such a good way to regain control of this game as T1, because now you're able to go into the enemy jungle, clear out their camps, set up vision, and while the Drake is still a fair bit away, so you're not going to immediately benefit from this in a direct sense. If you're able to spend the blue, I fear you're happy, but not going to be able to do so. But it shows what you can do as T1 when you're the one actually setting the pace, right? Because that is Live getting caught by, I think it started out with the Everfrost from Faker, might have been the gold card into the Everfrost, and then
It was over the wall.
more and more.
Let's see.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just over the
Yep.
wall.
It's a really nice rapid fire cannon. I think it's already finished.
Yeah, no, it
which
is.
gives him the,
He almost has Rabadons. Like, Faker's pretty fed in this one.
as the heal does come through that. And yeah, you can't chase that far, but you do pick up a turret. And considering the turn that they were able to find there is actually really impressive from T1. And it keeps this game as even as before. Now Edge of Night also done for Kana. Not really the need to pick up a Serpent's Fang that we've often seen, third on the Jaces as well. And this is still a very tense game. Soul point for Gen.G would be huge, would mean that that possible side lane pressure that T1 have in spades can be mitigated to a certain extent. But T1 gonna take priority or on mid lane, gonna just shove in. I do worry because this is looking like a possible collapse opportunity for Gen.G, but then they do need to be ready. Dan Bertle.
Right, we're going to find Bertle. He just runs in there and he's got stopwatch. He says, okay guys, I'm baiting him. And now with the exhaust used onto him, we'll see what the follow-up looks like. It doesn't look like much as BDD only gets in here, and now we got something going for Gen.G. Faker gonna have to flash as Ruler just takes him down. Even Gale forces forward to make sure. As BDD, the second he arrived, T1 were like, oh, we gotta back out of this one.
Oh, that was such a nice bait from Gen.G. Bertle going in, using the stopwatch to force T1 to actually engage, buying time for the rest of his team, then BDD hitting another amazing scatter, and then the presence of mind of Ruler to already start auto-attacking over the wall, so he has a feather there, so the moment that Faker goes over, he can pull back and instantly blow him up. That's going to be the soul point coming through now here for Gen.G. And this is still such a tense game. But this is exactly what I wanted out of a game one between these two teams.
Yeah,
Perfect.
This is the way it's supposed to go.
Yes. Oh my God.
No quick 2-0s in this house.
Well, let's not. I don't. Let's not curse the show. Yeah. Because initially this looks fairly questionable, but then the damage that comes through, combined with the fact that Bertle still is exhausted and is able to reposition really nicely, is amazing. And then BDD wasn't there for the start of the fight, then hits that, and look at the ult from Ruler here.
Yep.
He knows. Oh, excuse me. He knows what is about to happen. Able to play accordingly, and now soul point for Gen.G, but T1's comp it's still only a single accelerated shock blast away from blowing up half the health bars of anyone on Gen.G.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, the amount of damage they can do. And it was interesting to see T1 just, with the dragon about to spawn, they're like, we're not going to fight you at the dragon. We want you to come to us. But they also, okay, well, we're going to see a lot of stuff used here. They do get the flash out of Keria, which is all right. But at the end of the day, Trundle's not going to be making some big flash plays unless he's able to pillar and maybe get a flash out of someone else. But either way, some maneuvers there. But yeah, it was really interesting to see T1 kind of say, come at us, bro, in the mid lane, right? And say, okay, we're ready to 5v5 fight. As Bertle looking to take this trade, actually, as in he goes. Not going to land the stun, but he still gets the kill as the teleport comes in, and he easily flashes away from that one. Faker not able to follow up.
And this is exactly the type of play you cannot afford as Kana, because this gives up so much control over to Gen.G. It's 40 seconds in which they can move around the map, set up some Baron vision, and even if they don't actively go for the Baron, it is a great way to try and bait T1 into making mistakes, right? If T1 goes for an aggressive face check, if they want to try and maintain, make sure that Gen.G don't sneak another Baron like they did earlier. And
Here we go.
Just going to start it up. Teleport available for Bertle.
Yeah, Keria just Hex Flash over the wall. That is insane amount of value out of that True Shot Barrage, as Clid is incredibly low. And look at that pillar! Once again, in comes Keria. Will Owner knock it down? He cannot, as I think they saw Owner over the top of the wall. But it is still going to be enough to force them back, as the pillars have just been insane, as now Life has to go forward. As the follow-up here from BDD is pretty big, actually. Able to get the kill onto the Trundle and turns it into a one-for-one.
Support trade, so in the end, neither team really able to pick up the objective, but there we do see the power of T1's comp when it comes to Gen.G knowingly going for an objective. If Gen.G can sneak it, Baron is half health before Yadara's T1, not that much you can do about it, but with the insane amount of range damage available, it is really hard for Gen.G to knowingly get that objective. And I honestly thought, like, Life, what's going on here is... Take a look at this.
Okay.
He says he has no flash. As
That's just the confidence in your teammate as Life there, because you know when you go for that play, if BD doesn't the scatter, you just sprint it,
Yeah.
right? Like you just die.
he knows that he's either caught and he's trading 1 for 0, or 0 for 1, I
Yeah.
guess, or I hope someone helps me. Like,
BDD, please help me. And
Yeah.
BDD does. And I know Syndra's not the most exciting. Oh, Ruler, no, that's not a good spot for you.
yeah.
Careful now.
I like how he handles it, though. It's like, okay, well, if I just run straight into the pillar, it's not going to look good. But if I move forward and threaten, I've got Gale Force, ult, and flash and heal.
And the best item in the game. He's
True,
ready.
stopwatch. Yeah, he's ready to go for his own bait.
You have taught me well, Veldas. I've gotten really good at stopwatch checks.
Stopwatches are good. And he's the only one with actually just a available stopwatch. There is Zonya's right now for BDD. Because Bertle is really aggressive with his positioning. T1, I think they've learned that, okay, we can't really dive into them. We have to poke them out. And they have position on the Drake right now, but the Baron is available. So we're going to have a bit of a dance now around the mid lane. And I would imagine as long as nobody gets caught on the side of T1, this should favor them, as here's the attempted catch. Life goes in, but it's responded to really well. And look at the poke coming in as the kick is on BDD. Owner will trade his life potentially, as he's even still alive. As the kick is huge, and now Bertle goes forward, but he has an exhaust on him. And now it's 4 members on top of the Aurelia. He's trying to trade one back, but he can't do that. Even Keria is able to survive, as they will run at the Ocean Drake.
And it was a bait all along, Veldas, as that Zenith Blade, yes, you take it. But it doesn't feel good, because a really nicely timed Fashion Flaker drags Life all the way.
Boy.
Oh, that's greedy.
And T1 are running down the mid lane towards the Baron.
No, they're not able to. Oh, it's so good, though, because if T1 go for the inhibitor, you get Baron. And they don't know that you're down. And you have vision available. Clid has his equalizer up again. Still, this is a really high-risk play, because as Gen.G, if you die here, you might have to give it up.
Yeah, Ruler's on vision now. As, okay, they're going to spot him now with the True Shot Barrage as, let's see it. Nope. It's going to be taken by Ezreal, of course. Nicely done, Gumayusi. He's able to last hit that one. But let's take another look at this fight.
And yeah, that flash from Faker is insane, because that turns what could have been a really nice catch onto a TF into an insane play. And then simultaneously, Owner hits an incredible kick on BDD, who's been basically untouchable the entire game. Is that really crisp positioning? So those two key plays turn a possible turn from Gen.G, the fight that they're so desperately looking for to secure a soul point, into
볼게.
Going for it.
나 살아.
At
나 봐줘.
5. Gets it done. And yeah, I mean, BDD had flash. I think it just all happened so fast.
Yeah, and as Gen.G, you're also looking like, how can we actually help Life? Like, Life is very deep. We want to engage. We want to do something. Not able to do so, and now T1 still fairly in the lead. But as we've seen in all these fights, this gold lead not big enough to be relevant for either team. It's all about the execution. Can Gen.G actually get onto the back line, or can they somehow enable Ruler? Can BDD find a big scatter? Or is T1 going to abuse their superior range and make it basically impossible to fight for Gen.G? Every single time Ruler tries to go for play, he gets promptly exhausted. Carrier throws a chomp on him as well. That's negative damage that you're going to be doing as Aurelia.
Yeah, definitely feels good as Carrier. It's like, you know, it's like next level Braum, right? Exhaust Braum. You sit there, you put up your wall. Doesn't quite do the exact same thing, but it's a similar idea. Bertle's got an interesting angle as he's going to get stunned down and be able to go into that W, but it still doesn't matter. And I think T1 are slowly getting in there. That's the big kick, but it's only onto Life, and into the GA goes the Lee Sin. As the follow-up here from Guma, and the rest of the team is just too big. Another big shock blast into the back line as T1 will push and look to end this game. Another big pillar onto Ruler as finally he uses that ultimate. And they will just have to flash away. T1 will not back down from this as they will look to take game number 1 in about 36 minutes. Let's see what BDD and Ruler can do, if anything. No ult available for either of them, so they will just go down, and that will be the end of that. 36.5 minutes. Big smile on Faker's face. I think you can be happy with that game as T1 and as a fan. Very clean. Not very many mistakes, and great macro overall. I thought they had a very strong game number 1.
I honestly loved it from both teams. I want to please give me 3 of these. This is just incredible, right? Because T1 have drafted these type of compositions throughout the entirety of the year, as we'll point out. Everything that we see is familiar. The attention they pay towards Kana, him going for an incredibly early Jace, the Wukong being preemptively banned just so they can lock that in. But it's all actually coming together now, and that's such a big difference with how this team has looked throughout, especially spring, but even the early halves of summer, where it never really came to fruition, right? Like a pick like they found on, or rather the 1v1 that Bertle found on Kana around, I think it was 30 minutes, I think would have broken all T1, but the current T1, not phased at all, able to then find a beautiful teamfight execution, whereas for Gen.G, I like the remnants of, or I like the idea, rather the concept of this teamfight composition, but I feel like the Xayah didn't really have any place in this composition because she just got outranged so much, never really got the opportunity to hide back in the way that we know the champion can when it's enabled. And then, yeah, I thought the engage by Live were honestly really nice because we saw if you don't engage, you lose 100%. You need to try something.
Yeah. I would agree with you. I think that Xayah pick was really the sticking point in the draft, but very well played by both teams, and I think we will see a very different draft for game number 2.
Oh yeah.
Will be interesting to see what side Gen.G selects as well. You know, for the early parts, you know, in round 1, they were really liking red, but they've since kind of changed it up. They've mixed it up, and we could definitely see them on blue for game number 2. As you can see, some of the damage numbers, honestly expected a bit more damage from Gen.G, but it was nicely spread out, whereas a lot of proc damage, of course, came out from Kana and Gumayusi. I think our camera, our production, liked Owner's kicks as we got the zoom in on him after the game ended. But overall, just some great mechanical plays as well from many of the members here on the side of T1. As it looks like We are ready to jump into that break, guys. It's 1-0 so far for T1. We will see you for game number 2 after a quick break.
빨았어, 이래 빨았어.
내 먼저 볼게.
이래 다 막았어. 사진 걸게 자야.
포킹 들어갔거든.
천천히 할게. 일단 얘 볼게.
야 신들아. 빨리면 안 돼.
봐줘.
봐줄만해, 볼만해.
럼블.
레오나 노플.
앞에 봐. 앞라인. 너무 좋아.
뒤에 포킹.
럼블.
야, 자기
도현아이 없어.
피.
나 기도 현초.
그만 따라할게. 시계.
너무 좋아.
궁만 빼. 잘 시계. 노궁. 궁만 빼.
타워.
신들아 노플.
타워 쳐.
내 자연 노궁 신기 있다.
딜러드 퍼져 있어.
알아서 해. 포킹.
알았어, 오케이.
신들아 노플이야.
볼비 다 끊었어. 타워. 야, 스톱했다. 난 타워만 칠게. 난 타워만 칠 거야. 난 타워맨이야.
나이스.
야, 우리 역전 잘했다.
나이스.
오케이.
잘했다.
야.
Jovi really wants to find the Nara as he connects the Jade. The 3-man Nara into the wall as Jovi goes golden. He's got another stopwatch as well, so he can keep himself even further alive as now Def very safe in the back line. He's going to find the Aphelios. Jovi the absolute god. Call it Zubair. And you know what? They have a lot of damage, but here comes the Sandbox. They're coming on in. The rocket comes in, the culling as well, and it's stolen by Jinx of all people. Try to hard engage, I guess. I mean, life is going in, and as you mentioned, you only have one option. It's to hard engage. And let's see how it works out 4v5. As you can see, Ruler kiting down Doran. Zeus getting pretty low. He's going to be taken out. BDD has sustained so much damage, but the rest of the team is getting so much done. As Bertle and Ruler are just single-handedly carrying this team fight.
와드.
First place. Wow. Yeah, that was so very close.
Maybe the airy shield was actually the value. As Rich finds the Mega and Morgan finds the death.
Joset's got a pretty interesting angle. He's got to be careful as well, but they just have no chill. They're just going straight in, and here comes the Galio over the top. And they are so far ahead at this point, they're just going to try to press their buttons as Leo has a really nice angle, though. And look at the wombo combo that comes in from the side of Afrika. What a turnaround, as Piochik is pretty huge, and it's not going to matter at the end. Kingen will finally fall, as Piochik is the only one.
천천히 여기 시야 나 봐줘 가자 나 공원 잘 들어왔거든. 나이스. 좋아.
Welcome back everyone to the second match of the night. T1 needs this victory and Gen.G really needs to secure their spot on top as well. T1, they really needed to secure their lane priority based on what they locked in for their picks. T1 once again drafted around Twisted Fate, which means they have to hold on until Twisted Fate can roam around at around 15 to 20 minute mark, and Gen.G successfully defensed those kind of a play, and they were able to get ahead in the laning phase face, but in this game we had some back and forth outplay from both teams, and you know the result wasn't really that relevant to the draft theme, but still props to both of the teams pulling off such a great performance in this kind of a hype series. T1 got a poke hump around Jace. Ezreal and Trundle are not picks that can secure priority in the laning phase. If Jace lost the laning phase against Irelia, this could have been a very bad news for T1's Lee Sin and TF, but Hana did a fantastic work keeping his dominance up in the top lane. Gen.G at the same time, they were able to block some of the attempts coming out from T1. However, Gen.G also failed to shut down Ezreal and stop him from getting too fed. And later on, there were some crises and risks from T1, but still they turned the game around. Gen.G was also very desperate to end their mismatch against T1. So what do you think of the outplay from Bertle on the top lane playing 1v3? That was also super impressive, you know, as a rookie player. So with that, I also made T1 to rush a little bit. They started to become a little bit impatient from Bertle's strong laning phase, but let's take a look at the first point analysis. T1, they had information about BDD's location, but they got over-eager and they actually got pulled by Life and Glid. Ezreal is actually the one that, you know, does majority of T1's damage, but the moment he got stunned and pushed back by Syndra, T1, they had no opening to turn this fight around. That was the value of Gen.G's comp. You know, every team that has great form, they actually need to make multiple plays like this, and also it doesn't mean that this game is over after that one scattered a week, you know. With that mistake, T1's players also learned that, oh yeah, so we shouldn't really overstep into the enemy jungle because it's a match between two top-tier teams in the LCK. Now let's take a look at the replay where T1 grabbed a huge win and turned the corner here.
젠지 입장에서 예상하지 못한 구도가 돼버렸어요.
This was an unexpected teamfight position from Gen.G. I think Life going in aggressively with his flash. I do understand that attempt. Nice try, but Faker, his reaction was just too fast. If the flash order came in differently, this could have been a lot different. Or if TF instead, just Zhonya there, maybe this could have been a winning team fight in favor of Gen.G. In the end, Gen.G, well, they were, you know, committing to win that team fight a lot, even investing in Life's flash, but they were not able to connect that into a victory. But in this game as a whole, we had a lot of fantastic montage highlights from both teams. The game number 1 POG will go over to Owner, even though every player did fantastic job. I'm pretty sure we had a very split vote because for me it was so hard to vote. Owner, this time around, he had full control over the map. It's not about him solo carrying a team fight, but he was more about, you know, reading the map, having the map awareness, and finding the right target. He found Syndra among 3 players grouped up. And Owner is really good at punishing the mistakes from the opponents, and he knows what timing he should go in and when he has to be defensive. That kick on the top lane as well, that was also super critical for Gen.G and also for T1 in order to secure that kill under the turret. Owner picked up 5 votes out of 12, but it was a very split vote. In fact, Kana also picked up 4 very close competition between Owner and Kana, but Owner will be the one grabbing the POG. It's a hype day here in the LCK week number 9, so let's see whether we can have game number 3 or whether T1 can close out the night.
Thank you, G-Sound, once again for the awesome translation of the analyst desk. So we're getting ready for game number 2. Owner does pick it up. I thought the 2 votes for Trundle by Observer Team were very
good job,
very forward-thinking. I like it. Really looking forward to those Trundle stonks in the future in playoffs when he is banned out every game. But for now, it is going to be Owner that does pick it up, and Gen.G, who need to dig themselves out of the hole from game number 1.
It's always nice to see that when it's one player setting the other up for success, and then the player that's set up also knocks it out of the park, that you see the vote split between the two. And that was really what we saw here. And something that Owner, I think, has been excellent on is enabling Kana to get ahead, and Kana in much better form now than he was previously. Then also, barring one unfortunate 1v1 in the sideline against Birdle, just smashes it. And yeah, you know, I will never complain about some Trundle votes. I do like me some chomping.
We're very Trundle biased here
we
in
are.
this cast.
We're a big fan of the old Trundle. And for Gen.G, I think you park the Aurelia counter pick into the Jace. I think that the main thing that we saw there is that even with Birdle being as good as the champion as he was, he never dared to go in. And I think that was a good call because either the threat of Owner was there. And we actually saw Owner hover in the fog around topside countless times, and he would have been in time had Birdle actually gone in. Or Faker was there. Faker was in the fog, had the Destiny Gate available, and you need to play accordingly.
Even ran up there one time.
Yeah.
Even Cario was up there.
There we go. So this solves the issue. I think that while in a vacuum, I honestly don't think the Aurelia pick was a problem. The playstyle of T1 completely shut down any possible countering of that pick. So instead, let's force Kana onto something else. I think that is a good approach. Viego first pick is possible here if you want to lock in a strong early skirmisher, but instead it's a Leona first pick here, coming out for life. That's a shocker.
It's pretty interesting as a first pick. It does leave kind of the way you want to play open. Obviously, Leona is pretty aggressive, but she can be paired with many different bottom lanes. Or, you know, just solo, she's very much up there on the tier list. But it also leaves a lot available for T1 to pick, right? You were talking about Viego. There's Lee Sin that's available. Even like an Aphelios. The Thresh is taken off the board, though, so probably will fall in priority. As Lee Sin and Twisted Fate, they're running it back. It worked in game 1.
Oh, it's fine. You just bait out the another auto attacker, and then you lock in the Jax on B5. I can see the lines, Veldis. It's easy peasy. No, I'm joking. As we do see the Ezreal coming in here, and I think that's a great adaptation. We talked about it a little bit in the break as well. And while the Xayah pick can make sense into some team comps, T1's comp wasn't necessarily one of them, and the Ezreal was open. The combination of those two factors led to a rather awkward situation where Ruler, even with 3 items as fat as he was, had never really an opportunity to impact the game because T1 didn't really give him one, as the Aurelia will be picked up for Birdle here again. Although, again, is technically a flex pick, and T1 now forced to either pick up a bot laner and otherwise the risk of getting banned out there even further, or lock in a counter towards that Aurelia. And it will be Kana's Gnaw, but let's not forget that even when the Gnaw was very popular, the Aurelia was considered a counter pick. Feel like that's still a skill matchup as it stands currently, but does mean that Gen.G again opt into a style that is going to be reliant on Birdle actually finding leads in lane, and into a TF and Owner on the same champion. I think we're going to see, at least on top side, a similar kind of situation, which is scary for Gen.G to say the least.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'll be curious to see how T1 draft for the bottom lane as well, if they draft a duo that can kind of sustain itself as well. on the red side. You don't want something that's going to get easily pushed in and potentially dove on the bottom side. Obviously, you are going into an Ezreal, but we don't know the jungle pick as well of Gen.G, as Aphelios is going to be taken off the board.
Can I interest you in Lady Senna and Sir Thomas Kench?
Oh, no.
It's like, the irony is like he even skills better with farm than previously, right? And we say jokingly because they, at least the Senna's kind of disappeared from the meta. Tom Kench obviously still around every now and then. And this is a pick we see often in, say, the LEC, but is not very popular here in the LCK. But definitely something, as Guma is looking, he's looking very happy. And yeah, Tristana into Ezreal, if you can get on top of her early on, it's amazing. And T1 going for the R5 counter pick for Keria. Not necessary,
or
really.
It's just Lee Sin support because Keria can play anything.
Oh, he's probably, yeah. Is he the best Lee Sin? We don't know.
The best support Lee Sin, probably.
The fact that you can make an argument for him just being the best Lee Sin in of itself is kind of absurd. As it will be 2 picks that have just fallen through this draft, which has been more about the priority picks for each individual team than it has been about strictly picking in terms of tier. With the Rise and the Xin Zhao making it all the way through, making it to the second rotation. Yes.
Yes.
The answer is always
no.
Yes. Are you joking?
No. Trundle.
Okay, Carrie, come on.
Trundle.
Show us.
Well, it's not Blitzcrank.
It's definitely not Blitzcrank.
We know it's not that one. Karma. Okay. It's not Trundle, but I can see what he's getting at.
And that is going to give an overwhelming amount of priority in the bot side. And that's actually in every lane, especially early on. Of course, once BDD gets some AP, we'll be able to blow up the waves and contest Faker relatively well. Rise can, of course, to a certain extent, follow the TF. But early game on top side, early game in mid lane, and especially that bot lane, like between Explosive Shot and Karma's like priority, Owner's gonna have a field day in terms of freedom on the map.
He really is. I think the map is his oyster. He can kind of go wherever he wants, and I think that's best for a player like Owner. Just unlock him and allow him to do whatever he wants. I think that Klid needs to play a really tight game here. No mistakes, basically. If the enemy jungler just has a ton of room to maneuver, you got to be right there at the right time when potentially he's there for some counter ganks, or maybe you try to make a play when the bottom lane gets aggressive. It's going to be interesting to see how he does play around these lanes.
Because for Klid, we talk about the priority that is available, yes, but a lot of the lanes are also very susceptible to ganks. Gumayushi, not as much with the safety the Rocket Jump provides, but Faker, Kana, if they get caught in a rotation or in mini-Nav form, they can get blown up very quickly. The setup is amazing, the all-in potential is definitely there for Gen.G. Seeing how there was a complete lack of activity in the early game, I don't know if Gen.G is actually going to cash that early potential of aggressiveness in, especially if they can't keep track of Owner and Birdle. Doesn't really want to flip it, which I think is the right call, but also means that you lose so much power of the Iradia pick, at least the type, or in terms of what it provides you in early laning pressure. But I wonder, Veldes.
I wonder.
We're just going to keep going deeper and deeper until we end up at Nullfight again. I feel like with the Jace ban, that topic hasn't really been broached, but if you want to
I'm
go
down.
into mountainous
I
things.
kind of, I'm still a little bit upset that Trundle was ignored. It's okay.
I think
get over it.
One of the only things you love more than stopwatches at the moment is just Trundle.
Yeah, and,
in any role.
and Ziggs. But
yeah, okay,
he's banned most games.
Mid lane Trundle? Yeah.
Sure.
Support Trundle?
Why not?
Absolutely.
He can go anywhere.
Jungle Trundle?
Not 80 carry, though. No,
we haven't seen the Fable top lane Trundle yet, though.
True.
One day.
That technology just hasn't come in yet. We'll see.
It's being developed.
Still developing, yeah.
Yeah. R&D is on it.
Let's see.
Not quite there yet.
Goomba and Keria looking to exert some early pressure.
Oh, that's going to be a lot of damage.
And yep. There's that poke, comes in. Nice amount of damage. Ruler tries to trade back, takes a little poke of his own. Ooh, That one was nicely dodged. Keria going for the field goal.
Oh, they know. That's a big ward there. Because obviously that ward also allows them to go for that play in the first place, as they have the guarantee that they'll be walking through to them. But simultaneously, if Clid gets the level 2 cheese gank off there, you're feeling great. But now, he's been spotted twice, so you know the exact route that he's going to take. You know which camps he's going to be at which time, which should allow you, as T1, to move forward with impunity. And you see T1's bot lane immediately making use of the insane amount of priority that they have at level 1. God damn, so much pressure that a possible trade, or at the very least some pressure being exerted by Life and Ruler at level 2, not a possibility. And look at the summoners as well. Life has gone for Exhaust here, whereas Keria has gone for Ignite. That's a nice change of pace in terms of what you'd normally expect from these two respective lanes.
And how about a play?
Yeah.
At 3 minutes.
That's
okay.
You take that, I think.
I like it. Nice buffer, easy against the Leona. Good dodge from Life. Going to avoid the magic key.
And now BDD going for an early back. As we see the topside scuttle being taken by Clid. And in terms of 1v1, of course, the Xin Zhao incredibly strong. Birdle, what are you playing forward a little bit more? And that's one of the things that I think they might want to look to switch up. Yes, it's high risk. If Owner is there, you're in a lot of trouble. But sometimes those are risks you need to take, especially if you want to really get the most out of the matchup. And yeah, nice early pressure here. That plate is going to give T1 a great first back once Guma and Keria actually find their way back to the base. Owner and towards that bot side. Scuttle Crab, as Kana says no.
Yeah, just being annoying, you know. Trying to delay that back. Nearly able to get it a second time with the ward. But that'll be just fine. Picks up the call, does Birdle. Going right back to the lane, not going to teleport, just runs up there.
And the vision control has been so good, and this is something that really allows this Tristana and Karma lane to shine, is that with as much vision as they have here, like they can just push with impunity. Owner is also hovering, another buffer. Right, so you need a gank from Clade, but the river is warded thanks to the Scuttle Crab, and you've awarded the Tri-Brush, and every time Life jumps on you, in this case he also gets ignited, but you just buffer away.
Yeah, and look at this. Owner's here. So if the Xin Zhao decided, okay, now's a good time to go for a gank, the answer would be no. Owner would be right there. Already too much damage on the Life, so Ruler just has to sit here under the turret and kind of bleed plates over to this lane. It's so annoying to deal with this. And so far the Xin Zhao hasn't been able to do anything to help out. Other lanes, you know, pretty even. I suppose that, you know, it's about 8 to 10 CS ahead in the solo lanes here for Gen.G. But that is just fine, as we don't have a big sample size here of TF versus Rise. But 6-2, I suppose a lot of those games must have been Faker, as he is one of the big TF players here in Korea.
One of the nice things about T1 putting this much pressure on the bot side, and one of the only positive things that you can really mention for Gen.G, is that it has actually allowed Birdle to exert a lot more pressure than he did in the last game. Right, as you can see here, building up a 20 CL. Oh, Keria.
He took that one wrong step, and now he's dead. As he's going to try to get away, and you know what? With the exhaust, he will not be able to, as he's just going to run into the pit. Clid immediately starts up the dragon, and that one extra step back into the enemy jungle was all it took for the first blood to go to Gen.G.
Really nice trap being set up there by Gen.G, punishing Keria as he goes in to obtain some vision control. And that is huge, because taking down Keria means a bit of relief of pressure for Ruler. Means an initial Drake going over, and you saw like BDD literally just realm warp to say, yeah, I will take the kill. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you playing it up nicely for me. Lovely. I'll take that. Yeah, delicious. Free gold here. And especially in this matchup, that means that it's so much easier, I say, as Klid.
Okay, trying to turn it around. No flash here and no ult. No crescent guard for the Xin Zhao. Not trying to turn it onto Owner, and Bertle's here first. Big Gnar into the wall, though, as Kana sets it up, but Bertle's not done. He's getting so much work done in the back line. Not able to jump back on a Faker, though. It doesn't matter. He's still able to pick up the triple. BDD immediately gets the emote game going, as that is a really nice turnaround for Gen.G.
Well, if you needed any more proof that both these teams take this best of 3 extremely seriously, where you can feel the tension, neither of them really want to lose to the other one, it is triple teleports being thrown at a random fight in the bot side river over nothing. Actually, I guess there was a Krabby, so, you know, maybe they want to go for some crab meat, but man, that is 3 kills on Bertle. It's going to give him so much gold to work with once he eventually cashes in on those items. And I want to see another replay, because I thought when Kana came in and found that Mega Gnar into the wall, that was going to be it, but the ability of Gen.G to still persevere, really nicely done, with Klid getting blown up basically instantly, not having the tankiness of his ultimate available. That's all nice, and I did like that, but also you need to keep
no buffer this time.
Whoa.
So you can see the damage is real. Ruler trying to extend it. Had a couple of Qs hit. Maybe he could have gotten the kill. But because of that, I think there's a ward on the Raptors. Yeah, there is, to see the Xin Zhao. So immediately this Rift Herald will be started up. But everybody on the side of Gen.G now trying to run at this. Might be a little bit too little too late. This Faker with no summoner here. Yeah, they're just going to take it down. Owner easily able to dodge. Faker for the link up. And that is a really early Rift Herald given over to T1.
And it feels like somewhat similar to game number 1, where I feel like Gen.G is getting the upper hand of these skirmishes. But when it comes to actual objectives, T1 generally pulls ahead. Able to sneak away the Rift Herald. Able to look at his vision in the bot side, right? Like, yeah, Carrier died at one time.
Gross.
Yeah, that skirmish shouldn't have been taken. But does it really matter when your Tristana has already picked up 3 plates and is nearing a 4th one? When, due to all this vision, there was just no way to really get any form of pressure going. And it's BDD just freely bouncing really nicely here. Faker not having a lot of mana available. And this stun from Bertle again is just... it's revolting. Just insane. And then, yeah, Guma has to jump out there again. As bot side fighting still.
Yeah. You can see Life and Ruler, they're so low on mana, they're expending everything they have to just try to clear waves and try not to bleed out this turret. I mean, it's 9.5 minutes in. This turret's already being threatened. The Rift Herald is down here. Now the rotation is coming in, but there's a ward. That has been a very common theme for T1, having really good vision down on the bottom side of the map now.
Even this is something, right? You just need to answer, because T1 is expending so many resources. Owner also could have thrown down the Rift Herald, not doing that yet, but at any point that he does throw it, it's only 2 plates left on the turret, so it will just instantly go as Faker.
Okay, the flash comes in, and there is going to be the follow-up from Xin Zhao. Nice stun onto Klid. Could save his life, but the follow-up, yep, it's not going to be enough. And here's the dive onto the turret. Life is nearly dead. Really big exhaust might save his life, and it actually will. Not enough damage comes out here, but Owner and Carrier still able to push them off the turret, and they can hold on to that Rift Herald.
And that's really big, because that means that you can use that pressure to maybe contest the next upcoming Drake in a minute. And if you get that kill on Faker, you might be in a much better spot. You get another kill onto BDD, you get a couple of plates, but with you expending so much resources, not being able to kill Faker, and the cross-map play actually working out for T1, because sure, you don't kill the Leona, but do you really care? That's first turret blood going over. And again, ties into the larger theme. Doesn't matter if we get the kills or not. T1 is going to be able to pick up the gold lead no matter what. And I think as Gen.G, it's a similar game plan to the first game. You just need to somehow try and force fights, because those you're winning. But as T1, they've shown that generally, unless they forcefully opt into them, they're really good at avoiding them.
Yeah, it's been pretty good so far. Another relatively even game, this one. Although T1 with the Rift Herald, they didn't have to use it in the bottom lane, so they can just come to the top side as a team and put that pressure on. They're going to give this Infernal over to Gen.G. Gen.G seem okay to take this trade. Rift Herald is about to expire, so Owner is going to have to use it here 100%. And down it will go. But this is going to be a gigantic amount of plates early on in the game.
It's insane. Like, this gold lead is just so big. Nice buffer there, and yeah, honestly, that's a zoning ultimate. Like, that's never really gonna amount to anything, especially with Carrier still in the general vicinity. As Life might suspect something is up. We see some pings going down. And they do have a ward there, so they should be aware of it later on. Brutal is saying hello to Faker.
A solo plate in the mid lane as well, and nobody was there. The Rise is bought, and now the rotation is coming in quicker. They're just going to immediately blow up Ruler, and Life might meet the same fate. The Everfrost does come out, and BDD does have a lot of damage. Faker eats a big turret shot as they fight in the mid lane, as Kana is winning this one against Klid. Klid on the run, will have to flash the wallop, and the house gets dodged. But curious how he ended up in that scenario, and oh man, he missed. Not sure why he didn't go for the tether first. Maybe just wanted to blow him up before any retaliation could come out. And Klid will survive. It's like he's in a minefield right now.
And it is such a big difference of the T1 that we saw at the beginning. And we keep going back to this because look at this vision control. Like, look at how much they're choking Gen.G out of the map here. And there's just not that much to do, right? Like, Gen.G either need to go for an all-in, which is really hard into the T1 comp, and if done not very carefully without appropriate vision, can also be turned onto you really, really easily. And you are already so far behind just from the turrets, the plates, and then plays like this as well. Just really cleanly executed. You see the threat that BDD poses, but it doesn't matter, right? Like, they blow up Ruler immediately, and yes, damage is insane. If he finds one more bounce, if he has flash there and he goes for a bounce, he picks up a double, right? And then maybe, who knows what will happen, but we're not there yet. And while we're not there yet, T1 is just snowballing the entirety of the map, picking up as much vision as they do. And yeah, you have a free on Birdle, but I think as Gen.G, T1 is doing their very best to just play away from this Irelia. Try and make plays, especially when Teleport is down, where she's not.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen other teams, namely the one that comes to mind is, of course, Life, where it's like, okay, Chovy takes Irelia, he goes 3-0, and then it ends up not being able to do anything because he's alone, and, you know, in Irelia alone, especially if there's exhaust in the enemy team, which, by the way, there's not.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's been it's been an early game here for T1. Casually, 10 plates being taken. But again, Life, they don't quite have the tools that Gen.G do. And you've got BDD, you've got other people. You got Ruler, who hasn't had the easiest time, but he is Ezreal. So if you wait it out, there's definitely a chance that with the nice amount of scaling that is in that Gen.G comp, perhaps something could happen later on in the game.
Even now, like, if it's actual 5v5, like, they have so much power. The damage that BDD and Birdle possess at this point in the game is insane. And you see, this is the beauty of T1. Like, they're not going for anything. Like, they don't care. We're just going to take a turret here, but let's go collapse.
Realm Warp as everybody's flashing out of that one. And here we go. As the Irelia goes in, they burst her into the wall, and the damage is enough to just kill him before he can do anything. The shutdown is onto Owner, and Gumayusi is totally safe. Nobody can touch him. As T1 back off into a concave and they say, come at us. We're not, you know, we already got your Irelia. You can't do anything to the rest of us. You can't touch us.
And that's that youthful ferociousness on Birdle, getting over enthusiastic, seeing a couple of low health bars, diving in and getting promptly Lee Sin kicked into CC, into shields that come through from the Karma here. And look at atomization as well. Gumayusi has gone for very defensive options here, has the shield already available. And I think this collapse initially is looking great, but once this doesn't work out, I think you call it, right? Like, you get a bunch of summoners.
Tristol.
That's one. Then the shield, and then the kick.
Yeah, you've got Mantra's shield and also even the leash from the Karma. Like, nobody can follow you that far.
No, it's really nicely done. It's just a mistake from Birdle, a player that I think in terms of pure mechanics looks great, but it's a problem that we've seen where the mechanics are amazing, but knowing when to use them is the harder part, and I don't even feel like outside of the play we just saw, that has been a big problem. But you see it there, right? Like, I get it, the health bars are low, But sometimes you just take those flashes that you forced, the bunch of summoners, and you let it go. Because then, this Drake is 100% yours. You're able to pick up soul points, you're able to take control of the bot side of your jungle, and you can just go from there. Might be able to answer here with a charge, a possible take on the top tier, or the inner rather, which would give them a considerable amount of gold. Would not mind that at all.
Yeah, really making a move for this. Zenith Blade does go wide, but that is okay. They got their objective that they were looking for. They take down the inner turret. Nice amount of gold given over to their team. Now we'll have to see what the next step is, because Drake just got taken by T1. Got the Rage Blade completed here by Gumayusi. It's so awesome, by the way, the combination of both Lee Sin and Tristana.
It's so
like,
annoying.
imagine trying to play Aurelia into that, and Karma, by the way.
Fun.
Not to mention everything else, but just those two especially, it's like, well, you dive in once, nope. They just have so many nope buttons, it's really annoying to deal with, and we saw what it was able to do in the lane as well. And moving outside of the laning phase, it's also really funny to watch.
There we go. Just sit in the brush. Someone will walk by.
And you know what? Oh boy, they have the vision over the wall, not able to lock down Keria. Here comes the teleport and the Destiny straight into it. T1 wants the damage, but they can't get it down as the Gnar goes in and dies. And yeah, Fakery's like, well, I don't want to flash, but I will have to. The response was swift, and it looked good, but then immediately it's like, well, it's mini Gnar into 5 people, and T1 had to back.
If that's a mega, it's a freebie, Valdez, but it's not. It is a mini Gnar, and he gets blown up instantly there. Gotta imagine that the call from T1 when the teleport was thrown in was to then go in aggressively, actually buy some space for Kana, and then go from there, but that doesn't actually come to fruition. He just teleports in and gets taken down, unfortunately. As we do see that trap being set up here. Nice ward comes through, and yeah, it's the teleport. I do feel like it's a deep teleport. Not sure if this ever really works out, as the hop doesn't really save you there at all. And there's also a perfectly nice ward there in the little brush with the pink ward. You could have gone to that as well. Would have been better. So a similar mistake that we saw Birdle make, now made here by Kana, getting slightly over-enthusiastic and keeping this game exciting.
It's it can be a tough ask at times, because there are other team fights where it's like, oh, well, that guy's teleport was like a second late.
It's split second.
And that's why they lost, because he teleported late. And then top laners have that in their head. They're like, oh, I don't want to be late. I got to get right in there. And maybe he was actually trying to click the pink ward, or it's a split-second decision. It's hard. It's really difficult. So.
Yeah, I don't. If you go in really hard on mistakes like that, especially when the player comes up in an amazing game in the case of Kana, or generally looks great as Birdle, the amount of pressure that these players are under, especially in a game as hyped as this, the repercussions are insane, right? Like, getting a top 2 playoff spot is going to make your playoffs run so much easier.
He gets out! He actually got out!
Calculated. As we get short interruption, a little intermezzo.
He even had exhaust. He's like, nah, I don't need that.
Oh, good.
It's fine.
I don't care. Incredible. Yeah, just I don't know, Valdez. I really want to see a third game, and I think T1 have really good map control right now. They're making it really hard for Gen.G to engage on them, which in of itself should be enough to at least for now dissuade. And if T1 can start second Ocean Drakes, it becomes a lot harder for Gen.G.
Oh boy.
Oh god.
Here we go. T1's like, uh-oh, abort, abort mission. But now Gnar's coming in, but they only get one. That's not enough. The solar flare onto him, he's dead. As Owner casually is killing the Rise in the backside. As you can see, they're trying to get on top of him, and eventually they will. But it takes a little while, and it buys space for his team. Owner does so much for T1 to try to fight back, claw back in that fight.
Oh.
They're waiting.
Oh.
They're waiting for this one. They're going for Clid. Do they have the burst? The answer is no. The buffer is there again. As you can see, they're just trying to kite back, but now Keria is going to bite the dust because of that. Uma and Faker alone here against 4. The Dragon in 17 seconds, and Gen.G should be able to control Soul Point here.
Ooh, I understand this and I respect it. Not wanting to take the risk, recognizing that T1 can't really walk into vision here as... Oh, they don't know.
The ward comes down. That's a nice gold card. Will save them. Hits owner.
And reinforcements are coming. You just need to hold on as Gen.G. Maybe you can get a little bit of sustain going. Klid going to go in, use his passive.
Very interesting use of Ocean Rift. We don't see that every time.
Boy.
As now, Gen.G getting to work.
Has ultimate.
Yeah, Kana, he's not quite at Meganar form. Trying to get in there, but nope, that's going to be Klid with the smite. They're going to find Bertle on the backside, though, as he's trying to fight back. He is surviving for quite a while. He's got stopwatch as well. As he gets the kill, he trades it back. As that is going to be so massive as well. Now 4-on-4. Nara's available, but it's not that position. They're getting kited out right now by the Ezreal. As Ruler's chasing him down. Not quite able to force them into a fight, though.
Game's dead even, Valdez. As a Soul Point now picked up for Gen.G. I want to see how... I mean, I know how Bertle got that kill, but I want to see how he got that kill again, because that was just beautiful. And just there's, especially with the, as you pointed out, with like the Ocean Summoner's Rift as it is at the moment, it's just, there's so many layers to the mind games here, as this is just straight up a collapse coming through on Kana. We see that Faker isn't actually there at the start of the fight. Very disjointed, can't really walk into Bertle or Klid. So they need to respect that appropriately. And then Ruler still not touched. Bertle completely fine. Vision, we don't get to see all of them, but that was Vision Trap number 1 in that brush. And then afterwards, we get Gen.G setting up in the other brush. And then eventually everyone actually comes in. Faker goes for an attempt at a Destiny collapse, takes down Bertle. And now, Soul Point for Gen.G, but with T1 in the position that they are in right now, still very much capable of winning a team fight. And these fights have been so long and messy as well. It's amazing.
Uh-oh. Owner has done some incredible things in this series, but...
does need to respect the 2-item Ezreal.
Yeah.
Ruler feeling, I think, a lot happier on this pick than he was on the Xayah. As it turns out, can do a lot more with Ezreal once she hits some items.
Yeah, I think that was our second Xayah pick of summer.
Yeah, and the first one also lost.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're going to be seeing too much more of that. I was saying even Sivir, maybe would have been a better choice, but we were really digging deep for the picks at that point because there were so many ADC bans.
Yeah, just go.
Even Lucian Flex was banned.
So when you go really deep, yeah, you go into the, the AP carries.
Yeah, Ziggs was also banned.
Maybe you should go Xerath. You know, they never see it coming.
I like that.
And then they think Ruler's going to play the Zen. Now you're looking at Jhin, and then I don't know how that's actually going to work out for you. Horribly, generally, but it's definitely a curveball. And that's value, I think.
Yeah, maybe in like a best of 5. in playoffs, like the really crazy strategies come out when you're down 0-2.
I like it.
It's been a slowly closing gold difference here, as you can see. T1 have been ahead since 15, but they have been slowly losing the grasp. And at this point, a gold lead of 800 gold is barely anything. As you can see right now, it's actually 500, but it really is anybody's game. And Gen.G are on Ocean Rift. Or Ocean Soul Point, I should say. They are also on Ocean Rift. Not untrue.
I mean, we all are.
I guess
we're metaphorically.
Yeah.
The players physically.
We're hanging out in the sky, like in the camera.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Are we the clouds?
We're in the skybox. No, Atlas is the cloud.
Oh, thank you.
We can't be the clouds. There's only one cloud, yeah. Him and the Cloud Drake hanging out together. Just best of friends.
Just chilling, vibing, hanging out, making sure there's enough Cloud Souls to go around in the LCK. And this is feeling like do nothing until the Drake comes through in a minute. Neither team is looking to try and go for aggressive catches. Birdo also has the potential, if he would choose to do so, to look for some aggressive side laning, but I like this more. If you win this fight as Gen.G, you pick up the Ocean Soul, you are just in a splendid position, and T1 responds in kind, shoves mid-wave in, and goes with a large amount of people and Faker with Destiny and Teleport into the enemy bot side jungle. Takes away the vision control there, meaning that Gen.G needs to walk up very respectfully, needs to slowly clear out. And if they miss position with especially that ultimate available, not gonna really amount to anything though. Faker just using it as intel, still has the teleport as well, so should still be able to join any fight. And I hope T1 is not thinking about a trade for Baron for Soul, because I've seen that one before and can't say I'm a fan. Wouldn't rent that movie again. Yeah. Not what we're looking for, but they're not.
It's a classic scene in the LCK. And at this point, they're a little bit slow. Gen.G might just be able to lock it down. Owner's really going deep for that play on the BDD. As you can see, Bertle's just going 1v5 up on the top side. Gets the stun on the Faker. As the Zhonya's does come in, Owner zones away a couple. But look at the damage that's being done right now. As they're being hunted down one by one, the Aurelia. Bertle picks up 2, and they get the Ocean Soul. Asmo, man. Guma. He gets caught, he gets red, and will he go down is the question. Yes, he will. One more play from Birtle as even the minions come in here. Thank you very much, BDD, for the help.
That's really a performance right there. And yeah, as T1, interesting decision there. Make the read, don't think they can actually get Owner into a position to go for the Baron, or maybe they're trying to win the fight before the Dragon rather, before the Dragon is actually taken. But it doesn't work out. They lose the fight, they lose the Drake. Now Ocean Soul is available for Gen.G. They are going to be able to pick up a free Baron here, because Life, he's taking his zoning job very seriously. There is Owner.
Oh, okay. Stop DPS. He's going in. He's just going in straight up, and nope, it's not going to happen. As down he will go after the stasis. Nice effort there from Owner, but it is not going to happen. Gen.G just vaulting themselves ahead in this game.
And yeah, there's a call made to attempt and take down Owner, going very deep. But as you point out, meanwhile, Birtle is single-handedly keeping the entirety of T1 out this fight. Gumayushi, he can't walk up. Faker is forced to stop watch incredibly early, and it's just the mere threat of this Aurelia diving on top of you that the entirety of T1 needs to respect, but they can't really. And then Birtle's like, yeah, I don't care about turrets or anything. Nice attempt from Owner here to go for the steal, and really nicely done. This is basically textbook, right? Stop all forms of damage. Love that, like, Keria is also trying to do damage over the wall just in an attempt to get it done, but then the moment he goes into stasis, Gen.G immediately makes a snap decision. Okay, now damage hit, no smite available, take it down, and that's
look at Birtle.
That's a 17-year-old rookie. He's going in.
Raid boss right now as the sun comes in, and he is just tanking huge amounts of damage. But this time, Guma, he's got a lot of room. He's kiting them down. He takes down Life. Now Cliff's in danger as he's trying to get within that Crescent Guard. As Faker almost dies, it's a nice flawless duet, but the Gnar to counter. It's now jumping away as Guma, and Birtle is loose again after the GA, and here comes the rest of the team. BDD, by the way, full health, full mana, able to get over the top with that Realm Warp. And this is looking like the Game 3 you were hoping for, Chronicler, because it doesn't look like T1 have a chance to stop this push.
Teleport available as well. Birtle just finishing his wits end. They're going to teleport in here.
Yeah, this should be it. Let's see if they can clear the waves. No Gumayusi for 30 seconds. It's not looking good. As you can see, Owner will go in immediately to his demise as Kana meets the same. And so will Faker after the Zhonya's. Down it goes. BDD picks it up. He says, I'm helping. And down will go the Nexus. And we will have a game number 3 in this series.
He used to be a trainee for T1, and now he is their reckoning. Birtle with an incredible Aurelia game. Ended up with 10-2 and, I don't know, a lot more. A lot of assists there at the very end. And ST1, I think there is still an incredible amount to look at the game and be very happy about, because their early game right now is looking, I don't think, anyone in the LCK can match them. Like when it comes to just pure the way they play around, they set up the vision, they allow their teams to just use the relentless priority that they have to pick up so much gold. But then, at the same time, every actual skirmish, every actual fight gets won by Gen.G.
Yeah, they played that out really nicely. It's rough when you're going up against what looks to be one of the most confident Aurelia players I've ever seen. The guy, he sees enemies and he's like, okay, I have an R button and I'm going to use it. I'm not afraid, okay? I'm going to flash on you. And unless T1 were as 5 and really trying to group up and using the amount of disengage they had with like Dragon Kick and the Tristana ultimate and other ways, if that doesn't happen, then it's just like a feeding ground for Bertle to go in and just say like, I'm going to kill every single one of you, and there's nothing you can do. I wonder who's the POG of this game.
Well, it's probably going to be an 11 out of 12, let's be honest. Ruler and BDD did a lot, you know?
Oh, no, yeah. BDD got a lot of kills there at the end. I saw that.
Oh, I honestly thought BDD had a great game. But no, this game was obviously all about Bertle. And we saw the Jace ban come through. I would not be surprised if we see an Aurelia ban as well in the next game for T1. And one thing that I think this game shows us, and that I don't even think this is particularly down to Rascal as a player, but more as how Gen.G plays with Rascal instead of Bertle, and that is Gen.G for the longest time had been missing something that feels like the X factor. You know, it's been a consistent problem for them, and to then see an Aurelia performance like this gets me very excited.
Hard not to be excited after a game and performance like that. Guys, we're going to take a short break, and we will be back for the third and final game of the series. Don't go anywhere.
나 아직 공 있어.
빼면서 봐줘. 상 보자.
나르 노플.
나르
노플. 나르 노플. 트위스타는 노플이야, 노점프.
난 가볼게.
트위스타는 노점프.
가자.
노점프 노플.
아, 뭐라. 나 집 갔다 나 텔볼게. 끝내자.
다 보면 끝난다. 나 미니언에 텔 살게. 오케이. 쌍둥이 들어갈 때 텔 사줄래? 오케이. 천천히.
다음 라인가 있어야 될 것 같은데?
아니야, 이번에 바로 발생할 거야. 나를 얘 셋다 우리 그래, 셋다 높여.
그냥 앞에 오면 EW 할까?
그냥 포탑.
타워. 가까이 들어오면 싸워. 라인 리신 노플. 앞에부터. 야, 죽이던가. 오케이, 잡았고. 아, 나이스. 야, 내가 잡을래. 내가 잡을게. 내 거.
나이스.
Gen.G is taking us to game number 3 as they take T1 down in game 2. I think top lane matchup was so relevant to the result of the game. It's about Aurelia. It was all about Aurelia. It was all about Bertle. Jace was doing a fantastic job in game 1, so they removed it for game number 2. T1 once again drafted around TF and Lee Sin, 2 champions that can buy time for the rest of his team, their teammates. So they had Gnar, Tristana, Karma. So this two duo actually outplayed the bottom lane against Gen.G's ruler live. However, this Aurelia from Bertle just destroyed the T1 players in the later stage of the game. TF and Lee Sin are decent picks, but you also need some strong split pusher as your teammate. You know, for example, T1 decided to play Gnar into Aurelia, which was a little bit puzzling for us. As Aphelios and Varus got removed, T1, I guess they took a bit of a time to figure out what they really want to play as their marksman, and Tristana was the one. Their third pick, Gnar, wasn't really that ideal. Maybe they could have just took champion that can, you know, fully tank or fully dominate the side lane and match Aurelia. But in fact, we saw the reason why T1 decided to play, you know, Tristana, Karma. They were very powerful, but it was just Aurelia carrying the entire game for Gen.G. We saw why Gen.G still insisted to play Aurelia back to back. Prior to this fight, Karma died, she got picked, so Gen.G connected that into the dragon. But T1 had full vision control around the bottom side river, so they knew exactly where Cleed was at. So T1 was making proactive moves. They managed to get a kill on the Cleed very quickly. However, that was not the only kind of focal point they needed to see. We had a fair amount of Aurelia games here in the LCK Summer, but I think we had one of the best ones so far. TF, well, he does have a target CC, you know, he's really good at getting a pick, but still, he doesn't really have the sustained teamfight ability compared to Aurelia. Aurelia joined the fight with her teleport, and then she kept exerting her dominance all throughout that skirmish, and she picked up triple kill in the end. Unlike Gnar, I think Gen.G managed to prove the reason behind that Aurelia pick. I think she was the vital link to Gen.G's success in game 2. Here's the second replay. Gnar had the Gnar bar up. It was so well set up for T1. But Gen.G decided to be even more aggressive and proactive. They decided to go for this Aurelia flank TP, and T1 also had a grasp of this potential play, so they were actually backing, staying away from Gen.G's range. But Gen.G, this time around, they managed to find a successful fight with Aurelia's TP flank. And then T1's players were so split 2 and 3. And even though after that, Gen.G, they didn't have vision onto that rush, but they still kind of predicted that they would be gathering around there in order to make some bait play. Game number 2 POG will be Aurelia for sure. Bertle on Aurelia. Gen.G was making very obvious moves for their top laners pick. They have been just blind picking Aurelia for Bertle back to back, even in the previous series as well. And many people actually thought Aurelia would be so good in this current patch after the fact that she received the buff, but not many players are actually that confident enough to blind pick this champion because she does require a lot of surroundings. She needs a certain kind of situation for her to pop off. And many teams know how to kind of limit her potential and they ban it away. But this Bertle's Irelia was pretty different. I think it's mainly about his mechanics as well. His W timing is so good. He knows when the enemies are actually pouring their damage on him. 12 out of 12 votes secured by Bertle. He will be our unanimous POG on Irelia. The ferocious Irelia performance was the highlight of game number 2. We're heading into game number 3, so I'll throw it back to our casters. Thank you.
Thank you once again, G-Sun, for that translation. As we're getting ready for the third and final game here between T1 and Gen.G. And now we're delving deeper, right? T1 lose, they get side selection. You would imagine it is blue. And do you ban Aurelia for game number 3? I think the answer is an overwhelming yes.
Have I said yes? I would.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to mention, yes, you do. Gen.G learned after game 1, let's just ban the Jace. It's just not worth it. I think as T1, you should recognize what just happened and go like, okay, we'll do the same. We'll pay our dues, we'll pay our respects, because yeah, picking Gnar into Irelia is a huge risk in of itself. We have seen some occasions where the match is going to be okay, but you're talking about people like Summit, who are just incredible on the champion, into much weaker top laners. Well, I wouldn't call him an Irelia one-trick. I think Bertles looks good on everything we've seen him on thus far. But
which is, by the way, Irelia and Jace.
Yeah, well, that's enough for me, Valdez.
One game of Jace.
Yeah, and he played that really well. He absorbed a ton of pressure.
Yeah.
But
sure.
Ties even further into my point. Just ban it. Like, don't bother. Especially when Aurelia, by a lot of standards, on the current patch, is just insane in general. Let alone when you let her get played by a guy like Bertle, who is clearly very happy to pick that into whatever matchup he may choose. And like I said, it was a good adaptation from Gen.G going into the Game 2 draft. And now 6th game of the day. Hoping to see a similar pivot come out from T1 here.
Very curious to see how this one will line up. T1 with the blue side selection, no surprise. As, you know, sometimes it is as simple as, okay, just ban the Aurelia. And I think this time it is, but there still is a lot that will go into the pick ban phase. Last time, you know, they banned Kalista, Renekton, Diana. Do you want to leave one of those open? Will they leave the Jace open on the red side, or will they ban it again on the red side? Definitely some questions to be answered, as Aurelia being banned is very obvious.
What a shocker. Don't feel we need to give that more attention, as clearly can only be expected after the previous game. As this might prompt another Wukong ban here from T1 if they want to look for another preemptive Jace pickup. But it will be done instead, which should dissuade T1 from picking. Oh, no, never mind. She's going to be banned. Okay, well, that problem is solved. Viego open, Lee is open, which looked great. And Fresh for Carrier is a big one. And I also think if you don't first pick the Fresh here, then Gen.G is definitely going to look in Aphelios Fresh. That seems like kind of a given.
It's a really powerful bottom lane, but Owner's Lee Sin has just been insane in 2 games.
He has been incredible.
By the way, Lee Sin picked 105 times. Very popular. As Olaf and Ezreal. Ezreal, we can understand, but the very early Olaf pick comes through. And that means you leave Thresh and Aphelios for Guma, Yusi, and Keria.
Well, that's a decision.
A decision, yes.
That is a decision. It's not a decision that I necessarily agree with. Assume this is going to be the mid lane Lulu for BDD here, as it ties in very well with the Olaf and doesn't tie in that well with the Ezreal. Not really the kind of comp you're looking for. So now you ban Karma as T1, right? You don't want to play into like Karma, Lulu, Olaf. That sounds like a horrible time. Ezreal and Karma also going to be able to do similar things to what we saw come out earlier. Then again, live on Karma, yeah. You know, I think live looks best when he can either find one of his comfort picks, some of the weird and wacky ones, the Jarvan comes to mind, or when he plays on hard game supports. We saw the importance that Gen.G was also putting on securing in the Leona the last time around. And there is still the chance that this is a support Lulu. But it seems less likely, especially with these two bans coming out. And well, not the final ban will be here. It will be the Lucian, who has more and more consistently made it through the initial rotation, and this would make, perfect sense. I think into the support matchup, provides a lot of disengage, has great roaming potential, provides some wave clear as well. Although there are some flexes, but we're getting in really weird territory where you'd have to play the good old Gragas top, which we haven't seen in forever. We play Gragas jungle and Olaf top, which I don't feel like we're gonna go that deep.
It's weird territory.
It's weird.
I don't think it'll happen. Maybe if they got like a really unfortunate matchup that they absolutely did not want to play on the side of T1, and then maybe you flex, like a force flex, but I don't think it's going to happen. The Orianna comes out, the Lucian ban makes that even better. As, you know, just for safeties, in case that Lulu does get flexed as well.
I'm happy about this. I feel like the Gnar pick would make a lot of sense here if you're T1, but then that also feels like a bait, right? Even with the Aurelia banned, I'm pretty sure Gen.G have an answer ready for that. And the cannon is kind of out of the left field and makes the T1 composition incredibly well balanced. The only thing that you really lack is a front line, but you have an insane amount of team fighting power. Now this pick.
I saw, so... Here we go. Wukong is coming. And, you know, it's really interesting because I think we've only seen this pick really into the Jays.
Yeah.
And the coach came over and tapped on the back of Bertle's chair right as that came in, which is generally like, all right, we're giving you a chance. Let's see the carry, you know, like, let's go. I'm very curious to see his Wukong now because, again, we've only seen him on, I think, 3 games of Aurelia and 1 game of Jace. Not a huge pool of games to choose from.
If it's remotely similar to his Aurelia play, we're going to have a great game here. But I do think that the Wukong into the cannon, not the greatest of matchup. You don't really get to utilize the absurd amount of armor that you get as Wukong with your passive. In addition to that, cannon is a pick that can harass you very effectively. We've seen more and more airy cannon recently as well, which makes it even more obnoxious to play into early. And the team fighting power from this composition is incredible. However, a Wukong, even with an Aphelios Thresh, can be hard to deal with. You don't really have a reliable way of getting rid of those cyclones, and then it's going to be who is a better ball delivery system. Is it, in this case, the Cyclone with the Wild Growth, which is disgusting. Is it an Olaf who gets ahead? Whereas on the bot side, I feel like with that Aphelios Thresh, if you get a single hook on someone like Life, and you can then follow up with some damage coming through from the jungle. Again, expecting a lot of volatility here, Valdez.
Should be fun. I am expecting a lot of bouncy castle business. And that always makes for a fun time. A lot of wombo combo in this one. Especially from the side of Gen.G. Obviously, Orianna Ultimate can kind of do it by herself, but...
There's so many like potential wombo combos that you can think about. It's like Explosive Cask into Cyclone, or Clid running into the enemy backline, getting Wild Growth, and then the Cyclone. Or if you're T1, it's Slicing Maelstrom coming out of nowhere. Owner diving in really deep with a Resonating Strike after he has the Faker Ball on him into a mid-air Shockwave. Like, all these things are a possibility, and that's really exciting going into this game as Ruler starting with tier, so going to give up a little bit of early game trading power in favor of hitting an earlier spike on that Muramana, and incredibly high win rate this split for the Olaf, which makes sense because we don't see a lot of him. So we're generally only going to see him in specific situations, and I wonder, because Olaf is a pick that is incredible once he gets going, especially when augmented by a Lulu. But we've also seen a lot of Olafs kind of fall flat. But if you think about the role that Klid has in this team, which is to facilitate and get his team for the early game, I do think it makes a lot of sense.
This is the first pick for Faker on the Orianna. And, you know, first pick for Kennen. I think that Kennen is slowly coming back into the meta nowadays. But interesting, you know, Faker has played a lot of Orianna in the past, obviously. But curious to see that this is his first time. Bertle first pick on Wukong, no surprise there.
As you pointed out, has not shown a lot of champion diversity, should also get decently bullied in the early game here, but feel like that becomes a stalemate kind of matchup once both players have reached level 6, where if you can try and kind of bait out the Slicing Maelstrom, you'll be fine. You have 2 Cyclones and your setup is great, but then do you really want to go into a cannon with Slicing Maelstrom? Probably not, as the hook it's dodged. No fear whatsoever. One life nowhere to up against, and I do like me some early game bot lane plays.
Yeah, I mean, it's body slam for life at level 1s.
Yes.
Kind of the way that's going. Bertle up here. It's no call into this lane. We're not playing into Ornn. Going for the Doran's Blade for Kana. Really trying to just pressure the Wukong out as much as possible is the name of the game. So you don't take this lane easy at all.
Klid now, level 4. Bertle gonna have a fresh TP coming in, but with Pryo on top, I don't know if they can go for a contest. Bertle decides against it after all. Klid already in position, also gonna have a level advantage here, so I don't think Owner can really contest, especially with BDD standing by.
Oh, Klid is gonna catch him here. Another undertow is going to link, and there's the ghost. Owner over the top. This time it does not land. So you can see a nice little fight here in the mid lane as well. The dissonance does land and make BDD's life not very happy.
Unfortunate as he is Lulu, who fairly whimsical character generally, but nicely done by Klid there. It's a summoner trade, but you are going to take that anytime. You're looking to exert as much early pressure as you can, and could still be looking towards a play on the bot side, get yourself a double scuttle, which you do indeed love as Olaf. Hey, picking up some extra creeps are helping BDD shove out the way so he can reliably back. Bertle, meanwhile, really waiting as long as possible, getting as much resources before he commits to actually backing, because once you do back and teleport back into this lane, you are fairly committed, right? Cannon's generally going to have to shove, and then post 6 you will have a little bit more threat, especially when Klid is not located by team.
So yeah, he's going to teleport up to the top side. It's a null magic mantle and a refillable. Definitely will make his life a little bit easier.
Fun back.
I mean, it's definitely not the most interesting one, but it's definitely going to give him a nice amount of sustainability.
Absolutely.
On the top side.
Yeah, going to feel a lot better.
Tons of resistances overall, including this kit. And of course, some sustainability. So it doesn't get too far behind. It's a nice time to go for a back. As meanwhile, the bottom lane, you know, you give over Aphelios and Thresh to Gumayusi and Keria, you best expect that they are going to press their advantage as much as possible.
So pretty much, as you say exactly, you know that is happening. Faker, no, doesn't want to commit to the cheeky cancel. Understandably, if you walk up there, you don't really have vision, and you do get glitter lanced into an Olaf that runs on top of you, you're going to have to use your flash. If you want to do that, it'll make you very sad.
Oh, here we go. Level 6 hit by Kana. But at the end of the day, it's mostly just going to clear out the wave. Obviously, not very fun for Bertle, but Klid has kind of just been playing janitor duty. Comes into the lanes that are not doing very well, and he just helps push back the wave.
Ooh, it's 3 people. But both have been spotted, as Owner going to clear out that ward. And yeah, Klid is doing exactly what we mentioned earlier, that he also does often on the volley, right, which is just, he's bodyguarding his lanes. However, one of the benefits of the Olaf is, of course, that his clear speed is incredible, and that means that in this scenario, he's able to promptly build himself up a sizable CS lead. Life roaming on the Gragas, but not actually finding that much. And Birdle should slowly get into a position where he can stabilize.
Slowly.
Slowly. Not a big... look,
he'll
goes
get
for
there.
threatening trades. I mean,
Yeah.
it's okay. If you get Kana low, you have ult advantage for, I'd say, another minute. So maybe you can try and get as much out of that as you'd possibly like. As Carrier just says hello. Life is like, okay, if Carrier's going back to his lane, I will too. That's fine. Don't mind that at all.
Seems like there were a couple of pings, maybe from actually Gen.G on that brush. Maybe assuming that Kana had vision there. There was not a ward. Perhaps it had just expired as we're trying to get on top of Faker. This is that play that comes through as Faker will just phase rush his way out of danger.
Nice thing about that trade, though, is that Klid could now possibly look for some aggressive posturing towards either bot side or Drake, but with a lack of vision as well as a complete lack of priority for Ruler, who has been left in that lane by his lonesome, by his support, is somewhat of a risk. Hook not going to find anyone there from Carrier. Life able to thank a minion for that. And because Klid is being tracked, it is kind of hard for him to get more done than just take care of his lanes. And the one downside of this composition is that while Gen.G's mid game is incredible and they can still very much use that spike, it is relying on them fighting, right? Like once you hit your ultimate, BDD gets a first item, you finish your Gore Drinker, Brutal gets an item and has his ultimate available. That's when you want to go. That's when you want to try and build your leads as much as possible. Because if you go into mid to late game and even footing, it's really, really hard to kind of get back. And T1 recognizes that and picks himself up a free dragon here. Sneaky play there from Ona.
Yeah, sneaks on down. His bottom lane has been T1 territory for the entirety of the game, so makes that
it's not a shocker.
Yeah. I think Gen.G knew what they were getting themselves into. Or at least that's what I would like to imagine. Bernal says, okay, I guess I'm going to become the jungler and start up this Rift Herald. And he does have Klid nearby, although Carrier now making his way up. We're actually looking to control vision and maybe fight here. Big undertow is going to hit Owner as he's just running through, and there is that combo. As he will have to flash away just like that. One gigantic, scary Olaf.
Wow, that's the decisiveness that you need to showcase as Gen.G. However, Guma is also roaming up, and that might be enough of an advantage. Also, no prio available, and you did use two ultimates there. And as Gen.G giving up this Rift Herald is a really rough look. Ruler also making his way up, and everyone is rotating. I don't know who's actually going to end up going for it, because it feels like the team that responds might have a great possible angle when everyone is grouped up. We do see Life moving closer. The ball is there.
Just way too many ultimates available for T1, though. You got the Moonlight Vigil, you have Shockwave, you have the Slicing Maelstrom. Even Kana's got a nice little angle here. The box comes down like...
the flash!
And here we go, we're jumping in. The Cyclone, the kick will deny it, and a huge Slicing Maelstrom into Shockwave combo. Who could have seen this coming? Well, we were just talking about it. They press all their buttons, and the flank does come in a huge manner. The only thing for Gen.G is that they did pick up that Rift Herald.
And you get the Herald, but what does it cost you? Basically everything, as that kick from Owner was just beautiful. I love the call from Gen.G in terms of how much they commit. Brutal flashing over that wall outside of vision and then finding an angle. But if Dragon Rage is available, it doesn't work. If there is a flank for Kana and he can just go in, flash into your backline with a Slicing Maelstrom, and Faker has the Shockwave as well. You've invested two ultimates into not actually killing someone, and you haven't made use of the time that provides you. Yeah, you're not going to win the fight. And now it is a 3k gold lead. I don't know if...
Yeah, he's fine.
He's okay. It's a Lulu. And now it is a Drake advantage, a 3k gold lead, and I don't think this Gen.G composition is going to have a good time. They can still win fights, but just look at this, because they know Birdo is going to be in the general vicinity. It's just this kick immediately means that Guma and Carrier don't, or Guma and Owner rather don't get hit at all, and then this, yeah.
It's just, I mean, you're tracking ultimates. They have 5 ultimates.
야, 뒤에 걸어볼게. 야, 뒤에 걸어볼게.
Yep.
나이스, 야, 올라프. 야, 도는 거 어땠어? 개지렸다 그냥.
How did you like my rotation, basically? And I mean, he deserves to say, how do you like that? Because the other thing about this is that we saw that Bertle was kind of shadowing him up on the top side, saying, okay, yeah, Kana's coming around the back, but let me get in there first. So the second that the engage doesn't work, it's like, oh crap, Cannon's behind us.
Yeah, it's done.
So you know that the kick is available, yet you still commit to it. We've seen this a lot in the LCK where teams are just like, okay, it's first Rift Herald, we can't give this up, it's too valuable. We have to fight. And it was just, I just don't think that was the time for Gen.G to go for the fight, and T1 executed it very nicely. As you mentioned, the kick was huge. Faker does have his flash, but it's going to be rough to get away from this one. Thankfully, Keria is in position. Yet another reason why you don't like to give this pick over, although he will have to flash now.
Oh, BDD? Nope.
As okay. Meanwhile, trying to get in here, he's got some help, and Owner's like, buddy, yeah, not going in on that one, especially with the teleport. So Kana gets in there, denied by Bertle.
That's not the kind of kills you want to give up. Feeding a Wukong is a great way to give away a surefire position there, and must be some miscommunication between Owner and Kana, but also without a stopwatch, I feel like that's a very greedy play to go for. As look at itemization from Bertle, right? There's a lot of magic resist, there's already some health stacking going on with the Ruby Crystal and Doran's shield.
All right, really trying to put that pressure down, and the Moonlight Vigil might just be enough. The exhaust is so crucial for keeping him alive. As meanwhile, Bertle might just die here. One auto, and down he goes. So we'll have to see that one. There was an O-slicing Maelstrom for the cannon. Maybe he just face-checked and died. We'll have to see.
Pretty sure it was, I need to shove this wave into Kana's teleport into, I'm dead, guys. I'm very sorry. Yeah, the classic greed for the shove that I'm sure we're all familiar. Faker ulting to bring some fear into the hearts of Gen.G. And also, there is a Drake online. So health trading right now is looking pretty peachy. Bertle also teleporting towards topside, which basically says to Gen.G, or to T1 rather, yeah, you can go for the Drake. We don't really mind, as that is not the best position for Shelly.
Yeah, the question mark ping from T1 kind of tells the story. Faker no flash this time. Nice dodge on the undertow. But once he dodges that undertow, even with the wild growth and the Ragnarok, they're still not going to commit, with T1 having a lot of control over the river and the Dragon Pit. Now, no plates, as they did just go down. That's the timing of the Rift Herald drop in your own jungle. Gets a bit of damage, but that's about it. Remember, that's all they got from diving in there into 5 T1 ultimates. And all they get is a chunk onto the top turret.
Yeah, it's just looking impeccable here for T1, making such good use. That one skirmish coming up really big. And now, as T1, I think you need to just play for safety. Make sure that you don't get caught out. The play that Kana made on top side, it's high risk and the reward is negligible. You don't need to make plays like that to get out in this game, because you already have a 4K gold lead. You have an amazing teamfight composition. You're going to be able to pick up first turret blood right here. Even further widening your gold lead. And unless Gen.G find a miracle engage, Olaf can come up absolutely huge with a Lulu ultimate, or Rula somehow gets a couple of kills in him. It's a really hard game for Gen.G, and T1, they definitely have a composition. They can just group as 5 and this game.
So this was the first dive where Kana kind of got himself into trouble. It's getting a little bit over-aggressive, I think. Maybe the communication, as you mentioned, not quite there. As
오마테인데 찍어놨어.
Yep.
I found him. Yeah.
잡았는데?
I think I got him.
Yep. Feels good.
No. Got it done. That's it's pretty annoying to get away from the little Pikachu cannon, of course. And wow, Uzi actually able to land that one. Looking for the fights, but here comes everybody from Gen.G except Bertle.
Everyone's here.
And yeah, Gumi's like, well, I guess I got to turn this because I'm dead otherwise. And he might just be able to. Gets the flash, and now the play, trying to get in there, and he gets the hit. And down he will go. But they're able to trade the 1-for-1. Now Keria's in a rough spot, but the team is rotating now. And he will be able to, well, he will be able to run and buy a lot of time for Shirley to be taken by T1.
Good enough. You'll take that trade.
Oh! The Hex Flash play.
Nice.
Didn't come through. I like the idea, Carrier. You get bonus points.
Emotes as well. That gets you extra points for style.
Look at the goal difference now.
I'd rather not tell this. Our first 2 games were very competitive until the very end. This one, more of a blowout. With that early fight going as poorly as it did. Just not as much respite available. And Ruda is probably fine here. Had Carrier not been there, really a setup life, unfortunately not able to save the life of his AD carry. And while all of this is happening, Owner's like, yeah, I don't know, guys. I'm taking Harrow. I'm not gonna be part of this party. Carrier, some extra emoting. In the end, Hex Flash not actually getting anything done.
Yeah, but flash in.
Yeah.
So, you know, you waste some time. You get the flash.
It's a big win.
I feel like he could have just ran through the enemy jungle, but with the Gragas there, it probably would have been a bit rough to actually survive. So
probably would have gotten blown up.
Yeah.
And yeah, the idea behind Lulu being behind, I think, is fine. But being behind by 2k is not amazing. And then the character that is supposed to be ahead is your Olaf, and he has a gold lead, but it's like 270 gold, which doesn't really buy you anything relevant in the League
buy a
of Legends.
Pot.
Yeah, but you already had that. Yeah, that's
true. Yeah,
that's not the type of.
You get refillable and 1 control ward with 250.
Oh, I like your optimism.
A little bit to spare, you know, maybe you go futures market, you send it into like a ruby crystal. Yeah, who knows?
Good.
Possibilities are endless, but... Okay,
Oh.
nice little flank angle here, and this is actually going to be really fantastic as in he goes, and the follow-up body slam is huge, but the damage coming out from Kana is way too much on the backside. Perry and Baker are zoned out as they're not able to do too much. Bertle's still alive, but Owner just going to take the easy way out there ahead, 2-1. But 2 healthy are the side of Gen.G, and they will push them back, staying alive with a really awesome flank from Bertle.
Ooh, that was a high-risk moment, but T1 are able to actually execute on it. Do have to invest a lot of summoners into staying alive here, but should still be able to pick up a soul point without so much as a hitch. And this is where you run into the trouble. If this is a relatively easy situation as Gen.G, you can win that fight easy peasy. You'll be completely okay, you'll be able to blow up multiple members, but because the lead for T1 is so big, even a multi-man flank coming through here from Bertle is not enough. And then the immediate turn that comes out here as well from Kana.
It's huge.
Him and Owner immediately blow up Ruler, and Kana's ultimate there is so pivotal because it zones out the entirety of Gen.G that are looking to follow up on the play that was made by Bertle and by Life, right? Who flashed in to make sure that that engage actually comes through. And clearly can get through because he is Olaf, he is Ghost, and he is Ragnarok, but that alone is not enough damage. You need Ruler to get off more substantial damage, and if you hit a true shot barrage though, right? If you don't immediately die, you can still turn that, and it does show that yes, this gold lead is immense, T1 is immensely favored in this game, but they still need to respect. Pushing up that far to just kind of siege at an inhibitor turret, when the Drake is coming up, when you can just go into the enemy jungle, choke out vision, and not take such risks, would be preferable.
It was super cool to see the immediate reaction of Kana, who, you know, sometimes, like we saw earlier on in this game, it looks a little bit silly. You're going ultra aggressive for some crazy dive and you go down. But moments like that remind you what this guy is capable of and how he is able to immediately respond. It's pretty nice to see. And he really just did too much. Like, you're not supposed to survive 4-man Cyclone into 3-man Body Slam. Like, you're supposed to lose that fight even from ahead, but really nicely done. Gen.G, they're still very much on the back foot. This is soul point for T1. They're still 7,000 gold ahead. It's only 21 minutes into the game, which makes this even more severe. And the carries on the side of T1 are pretty gigantic. Even Owner, once again, another very consistent game. Not missing a beat. Immediately gets into the back line as well, as you mentioned. This time around, Faker, extremely fed. Also, really insane CS on the side of Mumiusi. He's ahead of everybody by at least 25.
And
should be doing a lot of carrying.
While the early game macro from T1 has been very consistent, where they're able to just get plates, get turrets, outtrade you in objectives, that fight at the Rift Herald was the first time that they were able to win a straight-up fight in a very decisive manner. Right? We've seen them win skirmishes. Of course, they won the team fight in the first game where Life went in very deep, but the consistent theme in this series has been T1, better in macro, but Gen.G able to out-execute in team fights every now and then. And to see them pivot away from that, to put Kana on a straight-up team fighting carry, and Gen.G not really having an answer is a good look for T1.
They're
Look at that health.
And Bertle, he's got a nice ward there, but it did just expire. As we are waiting, and here we go. In comes the Wukong, but that Baron is getting so low, and you cannot deny the Olaf, and he will not be denied the Baron as a massive shockwave, though, into the slicing Maelstrom. Do they have the damage? Ruler's got a lot of room here, but it doesn't matter. The Wombo combo and the wallets are too big on the side of T1. They lose the Baron, and they just barely eke out the fight.
That's perfect for Gen.G. That's going to give you so much more time. And as you point out, you can't deny Olaf. You can't flip it like that. You know exactly what is going to happen. And crucially, this Baron pickup should lead to a denial of the Ocean Soul, at least for the upcoming Drake. As they know this is happening, Clit just goes in, has of course the Reckless Swing combined with the Smite, uses that very, very nicely. But then also, BDD just delaying Kana for a split second there by using the immediate wild growth on himself. Ruler's positioning here was super crisp. And then Bertle's Cyclone buying so much more time. And with that Mystic shot, Ruler's still being full health. As T1, you're like, no, we're not gonna give him the opportunity. Absolutely not. And yes, there is still a gold lead, but maybe the power of this Baron buff is enough to get some shove going. If you can shove them out, and for Gen.G, this is still a must-win fight. And T1 clearly saying, we don't care. We are fighting to the death for this Ocean Soul. We will pick this one up. And if I was them, I can't fold them. All ultimates are going to be available, and it's going to come down to execution here again. Still heavier wallets for T1.
Yeah. And it's a little bit less this time, obviously. It's about 5,500 gold. Gen.G are absolutely, if they set up another play like that.
Ooh, that's a deep flank. They don't know.
Yep, Bertle's back there. And here comes Kana. Oh, spotted. Okay, they know where the Wukong is, and they're on the chase. They're actually trying to get on top of him, but he's able to get away.
Oh, I love that. It's the fake out.
Thanks, Jonah Strong.
On our aware, though. And
Gen.G.
They're going to flip it.
Yep, you're just gonna hope and Clid. I hope he's got the golden smite button. Do they have the damage? Yes, they will. They zone him away, and Bertle does a good job as well. Has to go into his stopwatch as Kana's looking for the flank. It's not as crisp this time. They're able to zone him away, but still it's 2 kills for the side of T1. And now the Ragnarok'd up. Olaf is not quite able to commit as hard on into that one. Gen.G, they stop the Ocean Soul, though, and they keep this game potentially alive.
And it's hard to push in, because yes, you can now go for the shove, but the moment, 20 seconds still left on the Baron buff, it's a negative gold Baron power play, but you still take it. You deny the soul. Even worse with that turret going down. But Gen.G, really true in spirit to the series does, for they're clinging on for dear life to this game, not wanting to let go. The collapse on the Wukong doesn't actually come through. Yes, Bertle's died. This has another big impact in this fight, and I just can't believe Gen.G is able to somehow make these team fights look close. It's pretty insane.
Yeah. It's a lot of respect being shown by T1 as well.
It's also how they play around this, right? Because they know that Kana is there. And then Ruler going in for an aggressive E, still to be fine. If that shield doesn't come through for Kana, then maybe Clid gets a kill there, and then they might be looking into a turn, but now can't really afford that. And it is, again, the back and forth. These two huge zoning ultimates between the Slicing Maelstrom and between the Cyclone are really dictating the pace of these huge fights, right? Where either team needs to 100% play around, because yes, the shockwave is really big, but those at least you can kind of mitigate. You can see them, you can try and play around the ball, you can flash them as well. Whereas for Cyclone and Slicing Maelstrom, that's once they're on top of you,
yeah,
it's donezo.
And we will continue with this game. I think if T1 were able to somehow pick up the Ocean Soul,
that should be the nail on the coffin.
It would probably just be over.
Yeah.
Gen.G, they lost a bunch from really trying to secure that, and yes, they're hanging on for dear life, right? It's like they're on the edge of a cliff, and they're holding on. And T1, they are being relentless. I love the decisiveness with a lot of their plays that they have been doing so far, especially pushing lanes. They're like, the second they see anyone on the side of Gen.G out of position, they're like, nope, we go top, we push and move back immediately. And it's been like this very often in the mid lane, playing around objectives. They have tons of vision in the enemy jungle as well. It's all decisive as a team, very well communicated, and they get another turret because of it.
And I'm really glad you pointed out, because it is exactly what was missing for T1 for so long. It just felt like the team knew what to do for the first 15 minutes in the game, and then just kind of sat there, right? Like farmed up, was waiting for the enemies to maybe make a mistake, overextend into them. And as you point out, like, I think T1 is still immensely favored in this game. If everything goes reasonably and Gen.G don't find insane team fights or super high value flanks from Birdle, they should be able to close out this game without too much issue. But regardless of that, like, this is a T1 that's looking completely revitalized and is much more in line with kind of what we expected from this roster, right? Like, so much more aggression. Their macro that used to only be strong in the first 10 to 15 minutes really amped up to the max. And while I don't think this Gen.G composition really hits the mark, it is still, to me, a sign that they're able to experiment a lot more now that they have Birdle and are trying to diversify their playstyle, which I think is a huge boon for the LCK as well, especially a team like Gen.G that has been so often called very one-dimensional, always goes for the same things.
Yeah.
As 1 minute till the Drake.
Yeah, all it comes down to this. Outside of the last Drake fight we have, T1 were able to push mid, go top, push top, get a couple of inner turrets, extend that gold lead. Are they just going to do it again?
No, they wouldn't. Surely not.
I mean, they do have great turn, and they do have potential flank angles with the cannon. But again, you're not denying the Ola. So you got to know what you're getting yourself into. As Birdle, he's just looking for the cannon, trying to get on top of Kana here. He's going for the 1v1. As T1 say, good luck, Kana, we're going for the Drake. As Clid, he's just getting in there, but he doesn't have too much support. He's going to stay alive, as the Ragnarok's still here. The poke damage trying to come out. They lost the cannon, and now they're trying to get in. They kill the Olaf and get the Baron, and now life goes down. And T1 will be able to turn this Birdle. Desperate to try to survive, but he cannot alone. And now T1 triple kill on Gumayusi, and they're pushing top. They do not care about the dragon.
And that should be it here, Veldes. And I get the call to try and take down Kana, but maybe just scare him off and then still hard commit, because the key thing there was BDD wasn't there. BDD was helping Birdle because he does not win that 1v1 alone due to the lead that T1 has. And
Ruler. Oh man, there it is!
God!
It's Nuke from range, and now you lost your 80 carry. And yes, there are a couple of members coming up soon, but I don't think it matters. Gumayusi is still alive, and they have Baron buff. I think T1 have done it. Let's see if Gen.G can pull off the miracle hold. Life runs in to his death, and so will the Olaf. Ridiculous amounts of sustain, but it just does not matter. As Gumayusi, 11 kills in this game, and they will be able to shut it down. T1 take a gigantic victory here, leading into playoffs 2-1 now in this best of 3, as they will overcome Gen.G once again in Summer.
And this is the kind of best of 3 that leaves you wanting more, Veldes. That's like, why is this not 5 games? Because the constant back and forth, the diversity in draft, and knowing T1 and Gen.G, at some point, hopefully, we do get that playoffs matchup. And I need your help, because I don't know whether to vote for Guma's Aphelios or Kana's Cannon. Not entirely sure, and I need your feedback. You know, give me the split. Nah, it's too late. I made the call.
That's your decision.
Yes.
I might vote for Gen.G's decision to fight over the 8-minute Rift Herald, but that's just me.
Yes.
Sometimes you feel desperate. Sometimes you feel like it's priced in. It's sunk cost. We have to fight. I understand. I'm not trying to be, too mean, but at the end of the day, that was the decision they went for. T1 got a massive lead very early on in the game because of that, and they were able to be clean from there. There weren't very many mistakes once again. This is a great T1 look going into playoffs. Obviously, they have some more matchups before they do get into playoffs, but this is one of the most difficult teams to overcome in Gen.G, and I thought that Gen.G played well as well. It's just that T1 were the better team tonight.
They clearly were, and we saw the adaptations in draft. We saw T1 play very aggressively towards Kana in the Jace game that they played, but then switch it up, much more teamfight-oriented style, which honestly, I thought was a great look, because if you see this type of T1, and they're able to get these macro leads with a cannon top, like T1, maybe that's also a lesson for you. Maybe you don't always need to overcomplicate things, and really happy to see that different side of them. For Gen.G, bunch of lessons. The biggest one, as you pointed out, maybe don't commit once you've used 2 ultimates. I think the call to use the Wild Growth and the Ragnarok in an attempt to take down the Lee and secure yourself a free objective, that's valid.
Yeah, but once it doesn't work,
just peace out. You
throw
know,
Ruler
get some
back
plates.
to the bottom lane.
Yep. Yeah, that was just really well played. In every single early game, T1 had the clear lead. Of course, in game number 2, they were continuously out team fought by Gen.G, but stronger team today, setting up really nicely for some of the upcoming matches, and just makes me excited that we hopefully get a rematch, because it's always fireworks between these 2 teams.
Absolutely. And there's a decent chance that we see them go head-to-head as well. I mean, we could see something like a 4th place versus 5th place between these 2 teams, especially, I say that because Gen.G, while they're up towards the top in the standings right now, they have Damwon and Nongshim behind T1. So, yes, you get close. You almost defeat T1 tonight, but now you have 2 insane matchups later on alongside Fred Brion, who's always a wild card. And then, yeah, as you're mentioning, like, look at T1's matchups. Much simpler schedule for them.
Yeah. T1, especially with the look they have today, where the criticism, honestly, would be maybe in the second game, some of the execution on team fights, maybe some prioritization on Drakes that needs to be adjusted. But their early game, right now, I think looks to be the best. Even teams that traditionally have had a really good early game, a Freak Out and Live Sandbox come to mind, have kind of shifted that to more mid to mid-game skirmishes, a little bit later, 15, 20, 25-minute spikes. Whereas T1, even in the game that they lost, the second one, their early game was insane. Like the prio, the amount of plates that they were able to pick up, the early objectives are looking very frightening. And as we get closer to playoffs, this honestly is a pretty good time to start peaking. So if you're a T1, you're like,
yeah,
nice.
And it's twice in a row against Gen.G. T1 do have this thing where in matchups where it's best of 3s, they do have some good luck against Gen.G, but Gen.G have gotten their number in a lot of the big matchups, like World's Gauntlet, like the playoffs we had in spring. So it'll be interesting to actually see if they do go head-to-head in the playoffs.
And these are the type of mistakes you look towards, but the real, the real victims in this game were just every turret that Gen.G ever had that were being taken away from them in just a relentless pace coming through. And honestly, amazing look here. Wonder, as we see carry out again. Nice attempt to stay alive. Would not be surprised if it ends up being a Guma player of the game, but then you look at fights like this and you're like, Kana, I'd like to see you on teamfight picks more often. That will be okay. And Gen.G, it's a valiant effort, but clearly not enough for a T1 that looks so much more consistent in the mid to late game.
Yeah. I'm happy to see Kennen coming back into the meta.
We do have some great cannons.
We do, and Cannon is obviously a very exciting teamfight pick. Makes my job pretty easy as well. Get to shout Slicing Maelstrom and, call it a day from time to time. This one is, a bit of a lesson. Sometimes you don't want to flip against Olaf. At the end of the day, T1 did take the victory in terms of bodies, but they lost the Baron, so it was kind of like, okay, you guys didn't have to take that risk with the huge lead that you had. It turned out okay because you are so far ahead.
And this is a key call, right? Like, Birdo going off there in attempt to kill Kana, honestly fine, but because BDD isn't there, look at this health bar on Clit, or rather, complete lack of. Miracle Steel is not available, he tries to goes in, gets taken down, and then there's no Cyclone available anymore. No way for Birdo to really make it done. And honestly, also, it's a nice pincer movement from T1. That flank from Kana kind of forces Gen.G's hands. It works out expertly, and this is Ruler about to get credit for 700 health.
Pretty rough. He walked straight into the ball. It was a good repositioning, actually, from Faker, because it was in front of the turret, but then he edged it forward just a little bit, like a couple of Teemos forward. And then that was
just enough.
I guess Ruler didn't see it, right? And the ball can be a little bit deceptive from time to time, and he just steps on it, gets hit, and that was all the damage they needed. I mean, it's an Ezreal, and they were getting pushed on by more members than they had, plus Baron buff, plus a big lead in gold, of course. So probably wouldn't have mattered even if Ruler did stay alive, unless he hit every single Mystic shot and pushed them all back. So that's the story. At the end of it all, Guma did some insane damage there by the end of it all. And I think it's probably between him and Kana.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I'm expecting a split vote. Don't know who of the two will take it, but honestly can give it to either one, I think. Okay. That should not come as a shock to us.
I mean, he didn't die. Yeah, like, perfect game. Okay.
No, he had great shockwaves.
The only issue I have is that a lot of them were reactive, but that's okay. Like, a lot of them were like wombo combo. Like, he had a really clean game. I just thought that there were some members of T1 that had some big like playmaker moves, which is sometimes what I would base play of the game off of, but it's okay.
That said, it is good to see that even with picks like the TF not being available, T1, and this is something I keep talking about because T1 have shown such a reluctance to opt into teamfight styles. And if you see this game and you draft a teamfight comp and you still demolish your opponent, it should mean great things for T1 when we go into best of fives where varieties of drafts are a lot more important, where you might not get to. Yeah, there we go. That's the kind of, yeah. Perfect.
4 votes for Guma, 3
I like
for
it.
Kana, and 5 for Faker. So 5-4-3, pretty even split there. But we do have the interview ready right now. I'm going to hand it over to Ji-san for the translation.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Ji-san with the POG interview translation, joined by owner Faker, the mid-jungle duo of T1. A back-to-back victory from T1 over Gen.G in the summer split. Owner, how are you feeling? I thought it was gonna be 2-0 win for us, but it's a bummer. It's a 2-1-1. But still, it feels great.
이어서 페이커 선수도 사실 플레이오프를 앞두고 경기력을 끌어올리는 게
And Faker, it was very important for T1 to, have the upward trend before heading into the playoffs. It wasn't bad, but I think we saw a lot room to improve. So, yeah, it was a really good chance for us.
오너 선수,
네.
기존에
Owner.
어떻게 보면은 다들
Well,
무서워하고
previously,
오너 리신이 이제 슬슬
a lot of people actually target banned your Lee Sin, but you are getting more chance to play that champion. How do you feel about your performance on Lee Sin today? I mean, I kind of like it in a bit, but sometimes I did make some mistakes, so it's not 100% of my Lee Sin.
같은 경우가
In game 1,
바텀을 어떻게 보면 거의 방치하다시피
you didn't pay attention to your bot duo. You kept playing around your top lane, enabling Kana on the top lane together with Faker as well. That was very effective. Is that because of the draft and comp, or is that all depends on the given situation? It always changes. Our bot duo, you can just leave them alone for all day. So I trusted them and I tried to play according to the situation of the game. Some people said T1's comp looked very hard to execute. For example, Gnar into Aurelia and also Karma last pick. Is that, the reflection of the players' confidence, or is that something that your coaching staff looking for? I mean, because stronger teams, always try different champs, different comps. So sometimes you get to play some of the hard and difficult comp that is hard to execute.
알겠습니다. 자, 그리고 오너 선수 오늘
And Owner said your listen did some good things, but sometimes didn't really play well. So, but we have a highlight for you. A fantastic kick that turned the game around. So let's take a look at the replay together. It was a actually team effort from you and Faker. Faker, did you see that Leona flash coming? Yes, I did. So I wanted to drag her back, draw her inside. And we were waiting for them. We were trying to pull them in, but actually Gen.G got overexcited and they went in first. And Leona, she got pulled back. So we waited until Leona dies. And I thought if I get the kick connected, it's gonna be 100% win for us.
그렇죠. 그러면 이제 탑에서 좀 연습생 시절 함께 보냈던
And then we had Owner versus Kana, Kana versus Owner matchup, the T1 rookie top laners clash, the former rookie teammates. Well, Kana didn't even say much about that. And we had insta-ban from T1 targeting Birdo's Aurelia. Tell us about that. He was pretty good at it, so we just wanted to get rid of that. And if we get to remove that champion, we thought it's gonna be a very safe game for us. Game 3, we had some powerful moment from Olaf and Lulu. Shutting them down was the key, right? Olaf and Lulu, in my perspective, they were never, intimidating at all for me. I was just like, I'll wait and kill Clid in the later game. And Orianna did manage to buy some time for teammates, but there was one moment where Clid stole your Baron. How did you guys decide to deal with the situation? Owner is a really good smiter, so we were confident to go for the smite fight. But because it was so easy for the opponent to actually steal that. Yeah, I guess we had a huge trust for Owner's smite. Owner, what about you? We were not supposed to burst the Baron, but someone just started the Baron. We actually wanted to pause, but someone just bursted and kept doing damage, so it's not my fault, Faker, we have a question about your Orianna as well. This champion is not a mainstream pick, to be honest. But why did you decide to play Orianna? For the comp? And also, the mage items, AP items are much cheaper now. So we are getting to see more and more mage champions these days. T1, you guys are having a bigger chance to skip the playoff round 1. How are we going to prepare for the upcoming matches? We have 2 more matches to play. We're going to do our best and win them all.
페이커 선수도 각오 들려주시죠.
Right now, we are sailing so well. Not only the remaining 2 matches, but also the playoff will be so important. So we will keep working hard for the long-term future, and we want to get as high as bigger stage as we can. And this will be the end of the interview from owner Faker, and I'm going to pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
Thank you, G-Sun, for that wonderful translation of the interview. Always good to hear from Faker and owner, the boys from T1, picking up the big win tonight, as we're actually going to take a look at the play of the day and see who does pick it up from the huge amount of plays we had today from both series. But this one goes to Connor.
Understandably so. This was presented in it's a nice shockwave from Faker. The follow-up is great, but let's be honest, it's Kana's cannon that finds two insane plays, right? Because this flank basically won in the game. Like, that was just it. It was a great response from Owner Air. Get rid of that Wukong knock, and then just... disgusting. What you gonna do?
I mean, we talked about the insane wombo combo potential from the side of T1. You know, say what you want about the decision from Gen.G. As I mentioned before, sometimes it's like, well, I mean, we got to give it a try. And they almost caught one person. You know, you blow someone up, maybe that fight looks different, but unfortunately not able to make it work. And T1, they pick up that win. They're able to tie Live Sandbox, Gen.G, and Damwon Kia in wins. Obviously, themselves and Damwon have played an extra game, which they did lose. But there's still a lot of time in T1's schedule, as we mentioned. It's DRX and Hanwha Life Esports, so there is absolutely a great chance for T1 to make the top part of the standings here and potentially get a great seed for playoffs.
There's still so much mobility possible, as you pointed out, because everyone is on 10 wins, except Nongshim with 11, but even that's not a position that you're going to feel that you're going to feel super comfortable in. And Live Sandbox, of course, on the upswing. So after tomorrow, we should know a little bit more, because I think that is a great opportunity for Nongshim and Live Sandbox to kind of set themselves apart from Gen.G and T1, which is still an insane sentence to me to say that, like, no, Nongshim and Sandbox actually are 1 and 2. Is that, what? What?
Yeah. Tomorrow's matches, by the way, Afrika go from facing DRX to facing Nongshim. So they go from 10th to 1st. Good luck with that.
What did they do against DRX again? They lost.
They did.
It was not good.
It's gonna be interesting tomorrow for sure. Join me and Wolf for that cast. Thank you, Chronicler, for joining me today. That's gonna do it for us. Pretty long day, 6 games, but it was fun all the way through for both series. But thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow for more of the LCK. Have a good night.